Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and I'm joined by regular co-host Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello again, Ben. And indeed, hello everybody. All right? Only Ben can answer.
Hello to everybody. I'll answer on behalf of everybody. They're all right. Today, we're joined by a very special pair of guests. It's two of the creative team behind Retroware's new beat-em-up game, Toxic Crusaders. Welcome to the show, writer John Locke and lead developer / designer Sam Beddoes.
Ooh, hello.
Hello. That was a bit too spooky. That
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll read it in a bit.
It's okay. We're for a horror audience. You can be that spooky, but no more.
Not spookier than me, though. All right, don't show me up, please. Are you guys
good? Yeah, I was just gonna say I feel guilty right off the bat that my name came ahead of Sam's. I feel like like in terms of sheer workload, Sam's done like 99.999% of it compared to my involvement on the game.
That's a lot of nines.
It's loads of nines. When I usually introduce people, I don't usually just rank them by how much work I think they've done today, or in any sort of sense. So, I mean, that was literally just the luck of the draw, I would say.
Oh well, good. I feel slightly better then.
Writer is very important. I just code some stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that. Well, you're really just saying what my heart's been feeling for a long time, Sam. That you've been riding on my coattails.
The writers versus artist debate is alive and well.
You guys, if you want to be humble, be humble. If you want to just tear each other's throats out, then just go for it. We'll provide a platform for you guys to just get it all out there.
I know it's horror podcast, but I assume you're not talking literally there.
Not literally, no. Don't do that. I don't endorse violence.
Danger is
like a Roadhouse.
Given the inherently, audio-based form of the medium, being a podcast, it becomes a bit like a BBC kind of like folio drama sort of thing, where like, oh no, what's he doing? Oh, he's tearing his guts out. And it's just like Andy with like a bucket of like sausages in water or something going,
stamping
splash.
Into like a washing up bowl of like mincemeat, which I keep with me at all times.
Yeah, Sam Raimi presents The Archers.
To be fair, I would start listening.
Yeah, I'd be into it.
Speaking of horror, segueing, I listened to The Archers about a decade, 20 years ago, when they were bedeviled by a cow slasher.
Oh, God.
And they were putting this kind of hard-hitting drama into it. Why am I not listening to The Archers now?
Well, again, that was in the heady days of 2004, so you could broadcast anything before 10
Did he have a
nickname?
Sunday? Did he have a nickname like the bovine beast? I don't know.
Bovine bastard.
The bovine bastard.
Yeah, the bovine abrasia, perhaps. Yeah.
I mean, did you listen to the storyline to the end, John? Are we not to know that is it someone slashing up cows, or is it a cow slasher in the sense that it's like a nice Black Angus in like a hockey mask going around taking out the local farmers?
No, it was a person.
It wanted the Cravendale back.
Cravendale would be an amazing name for a cow-themed horror movie. Like, I'd be well up for that.
It's directed by Wes Cravendale. Yeah.
Sorry. To end the mystery, the finale of the cow slasher saga, which went on for like an entire summer. This being an audio drama, was somebody going, I see him. I'm going after him, and you just see it going like club, 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 like scab, scab, scab. Stop! You better drop it.
Oh no, he's escaping through that creaky gate.
You know what? We say this, but how good was Orson Welles' War of the Worlds at that? The second half, it goes all into like a live drama thing,
and everybody thought it was real. Maybe people listening to The Archers back then thought the cow slasher was real.
Keeping a lookout for them. I mean, we should say this up top. Spoilers for a 20-year-old storyline on The Archers. If you are still catching up, you may need to go back, hear this spoiler warning in the past, and then skip ahead.
Sorry.
They thought The Archers was real. There's a pile-up on the motorway because they thought the sheep had really escaped from the pen.
A pile-up. Oh, God. That sounds terrible. So, I guess off the bat, we should talk about Toxic Crusaders, which is incredibly exciting. The trailer for this was only out sort of about a month ago, wasn't it? And as soon as I saw it all over Twitter, everyone going crazy. Then, of course, there was some sort of, was it just like a presentation of the game at PAX East as well, where Toxic Avenger fans were going and Troma fans were seemingly going insane for how much they were excited for the game as well. So it's absolutely amazing to have you guys on the show to discuss this and obviously discuss Toxic Avenger. So I guess jumping into talking about the game, how did you guys both get involved in this project? Because it is incredibly exciting, isn't it?
So so I worked with I'd made the AVGN games and stuff like that, and the guys at Retroware, they're also Screenwave, it's the same company, and they do Cinemassacre, Angry Video Game Nerd, and all that stuff now. And I'd made the Angry Video Game Nerd, and then if you guys can remember, Screw Attack effectively shut down, so the console ports of AVGN 2 were effectively cancelled and all that, and they got merged with Rooster Teeth, who just didn't seem to have much interest in the games, sadly. But eventually one day, Ryan from Screenwave, he got in touch with me and he was like, I want to get this, I want to buy this game off of Rooster Teeth and bring out like a collection and everything. And so Ryan basically, saved my career. and I worked with him a bunch, and it was Ryan's idea that he sort of they'd worked with Lloyd Kaufman before, and on bits and bobs, just because they're quite local to each other. So often, Lloyd Kaufman had actually been on the Angry Video Game Nerd, the actual show, and they'd done the Toxic Crusaders and everything. And so I think, I don't know the full extent of it, but, at some point Ryan had the idea and he thought that I should be the guy to do it. And as somebody who liked the show as a kid and had the toys and everything like that, I was super excited to do it. And I said, well, let's do a beat 'em up like Streets of Rage style, and we went from there. So it was just like a history of working with those guys, and I was lucky enough to get that job.
That's so cool. I remember that Lloyd Kaufman episode as well for Angry Video Game Nerd.
And of course, when they said, they liked the AVGN games, they said that because I wrote the dialogue in those, and they said it was funny, but they said, can you make this funny as well? And I just thought, well, yes, but I'm not up to this job, but I know who is, and I'll hand over to him now.
And when he wasn't available, I stepped in to help out.
Maybe it will be eventually.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like from my perspective, like Sam and I have known each other years, and we went to school together. So it's pure nepotism how I got in, and
nice.
It was we'd worked on a game together. Like Sam had made a game called Spectacular Sparky, which is on Switch, Steam, all these cool platforms, and that was like a really cool kind of project because Sam very kindly invited me to come and write on it, and we had like a bunch of like local folk who we knew, who were friends, who were kind of involved, like voice actors and stuff. And we'd have these days where we'd go to like a recording studio just around the corner. I remember it being like practically a heat wave, and we were all packed into this guy's like home built
tiny little shed in the garden.
Yeah, wow. Amazing little like it was so kind of like it's so far from like Silicon Valley and like the height of like tech development. Like we're in like a West Country garden doing like daft little voiceovers.
Being in Cheltenham, though, that shed was probably £2,000 a week.
Yeah, probably actually. Yeah, real estate. But yeah, I get this kind of cryptic kind of call from Sam about it was pushing a year ago now, actually, saying I've got this cool project. Maybe you'd like to be involved in it. I can't tell you anything about it because we've got to get you to like, sign some stuff in secret. Then we'll start kind of chatting. And
held up the flaming pen and then got some of his blood on the.
Yeah, Sam's got a special room just off camera in his house where the ritual is regularly done.
Where NDAs can be properly sanctioned.
And Sam was like, do you remember Toxic Crusaders? And I was like, the Toxic Crusaders? Yes, I do remember that. I remember watching that in the house I grew up in like the ancient days of the early 90s. I vividly remember it. And Sam was like, yeah, and we're gonna be making a video game. Would you be available to work on it? And also, not only are we adapting like the cartoon itself and doing a sequel to the cartoon in the form of the game. Also, here's a really cool dossier with all the characters and Troma brands we also have access to. Can we weave all these other Troma films into the mythos and style of the cartoon? So I mean, you can imagine like what a crazy design prospect that is. It's like try to explain this to a normal person. It's like the weirdest project in the world. It's like okay, so it's a video game, right? Okay, I'm with you so far. Based on a cartoon. Okay, yeah, cool. A kid-friendly cartoon based on an R-rated 80s horror comedy movie.
I feel like that's a really unique part of like history. I feel like the 80s going into the 90s was a unique point in time in which we had probably the best concentration ever of marketing of products, be they cartoon tie-ins, toys, ongoing TV shows that were based on hard R-rated properties. Because my childhood growing up, I remember like my friends had like alien toys. They would like constantly being advertised things that, and then when you finally get around to watching it, it's like, why isn't there a bull one and a snake one and a scorpion one? And like, why isn't aliens as cool as the toys now? But like that RoboCop, Toxic Avenger / Crusaders. It was
the forbidden fruit though, wasn't it? Like all the horror movies, because everybody was talking about them. You know, you're gonna play going, oh, I heard there's one where this guy and he's got knives for fingers and he goes into people's dreams and he does this. You were talking about it. You didn't see him, but it's always like this forbidden fruit. So the companies were like, well, the kids are really curious about Freddy Krueger. Let's make a Nintendo game of it for them, you know. And then there's the ideas about what did they do. Eventually, I remember they even did like The Mummy, you know, and stuff like that as cartoons, you know. And I suppose it makes sense. The kids are thirsty for that
things
stuff.
that can't. Maybe you're building up. You might, when they're old enough, they'll be able to watch it. But you're right, Sam. I had the same growing up. There's one kid who has, let's face it, now in hindsight, irresponsible parents that had seen them all. Like, oh, your parents weren't looking after you very well, and they would say like, hey, just as a warning from me to you, don't go saying Candyman. Well, if you're gonna do it, please do it 4 times, then stop there if you could, because you say it a 5th time, he's gonna get amongst it and he'll have you. All right, better not. And the same, my uncle had like a Freddy Krueger poster on his wall, and I was terrified of it. Like it was
for me, it was the VHS cover of Zombie Flesh Eaters. Or, you know, if you're American, Zombie or Zombie 2, if you're Italian or whatever, all the other names for that movie. But it's a zombie hand bursting out of a grave like that. And my neighbor was the kid with the irresponsible parents, you know, and that was his video. And it just fascinated me.
So check this out. Brings it in his bag to school.
Yeah. And I think they had the Nightmare on Elm Street. They used to record films off the TV onto just any film that was on that sounded interesting. They taped all of them. And she would have all these VHS tapes, and she would label them A1, A2, A3, B1, and they were all in a
catalog system.
And then she had a catalog where you would look for what it was, and then find the tape with that. And so I would borrow them off of him at the weekends and stuff. And that was the sort of early, you know, watching horror movies a little early. But it's the I don't know if it was with everybody, but in the mid to late 90s, there was such a kind of feeling of you know, stuff that you could get away with, right? Almost like, even if it was stuff that was for kids, it almost felt like you were naughty for enjoying it. And that was, and I think that the companies cottoned onto that, and that's why there were, you know, toys of the Terminator, and even though the film's like an 18 or 15 or whatever.
Toys, comics, games, just like all of those things that were aimed essentially at kids, and then you become curious as to like, well, what is this based on? It's based on a movie that
I think we can't get away, Ben, without talking about how much you've talked about the artwork, like evoking so much strong feeling growing up. I think we're all of an age where we were at video shops growing up as well. Like my nightmare one was definitely Hellraiser, old Pinhead's face staring at you from the video shop shelves. And then Return of the Living Dead 3, now I think back of it, probably influenced my choice of girlfriends as a teenager. Definitely.
You like them undead.
Definitely got
piercings and death.
Piercings and death. Oh no. It's carried on. It's carried on into adulthood as well, it seems.
That's a hell of a movie as well. What it like? You wouldn't think like the third sequel to Return of the Living Dead would be good, but Brian Yuzna, everything that man touches turns to gold. So
we've only covered
Amazing.
the first one on podcast so far. We got some time.
awesome.
So yeah, in terms of the game, it's release. I think we just got like a late 2023 release date, which is very exciting. I think it's going to be on. So is it Steam, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, all of the standard sort of major consoles and that, which is very
the
cool.
Retroware account has outright just said it's on everything, so I can just ape that. It's on everything.
It's on everything.
Grand.
That's good. That's good news. Yeah, I mean, so just very briefly, I'll quickly just read out a little bit about the game. So it's a radical radioactive romp for a new era featuring awesome action, crushing combos, and more toxic waste than you'll know what to do with. Interesting. Developer and publisher Retroware teamed up with Troma Entertainment to bring the Toxic Crusaders back for an all-new, all-action beat-em-up for 1 to 4 players. Grab your mop, tutu, and attitude, and get ready to clean up the mean streets of Tromaville, one radioactive goon at a time. I mean, it sounds great, and like this
that's some amazing marketing copy. I wonder. That's hired someone really good to write that.
Whoa, man!
Whoever's written this is a master of alliteration, if I dare say. Wherever they are, I hope they're very proud.
Oh no, I think I might have missed out 1 or 2 words. Sorry if I ruined the overall effect.
Read as read. As written, please, Ben.
Read as read. Don't miss it. Yeah, I mean, it does sound great. And when I saw the trailer, I was super excited. I've been enjoying sort of like that style of sort of beat 'em up game, modern beat 'em up games recently as well. With like with Shredder's Revenge and
Street Rage 4, and yeah, I think it's come at a good time when I think people have remembered, oh yeah, these games that stopped existing for a little while, they're all good, aren't they? Yeah. I really want a game to play and enjoy that I can just do those exact things with, that doesn't demand a grand portion of my life and time commitments based on that. Now, if you really want to unlock this, you are going to have to play between 3 and 4 on a Saturday. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no. Get to fuck, guys. I want a game that I can jump in and actually just enjoy. And listeners, John and Sam, far too polite, I'm sure, to plug super hard. You should get it. I can tell you before it's come out right now, based on the caliber of things that I've played from these folks. Spectacular Sparky that they mentioned. One of few games I've actually completed on my Switch. I love my Switch. It's a great deal of fun, but I tend to play it around bedtime, a bit like reading a book or something like that. You know what the problem with that is? Tend to go to sleep, don't you? There's generations of Pokemon left uncaught because I can't stay awake when it's time to play the Switch. But Spectacular Sparky blitzed through it very, very quickly. One of the very few games I actually went back and did you had the additional modes when you can play through after you've completed it. It was great.
You did frenzy mode. Awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And
oh wow,
when it comes to the writing side, John, I've known you from your comics work for many years now. Like, I mean, a decade has just passed since your first Afterlife book came out. Can't think of a team that I would rather see something like this revived from. And all of your work and knowing your interests in terms of what can be done with a creator that has a passion for a back catalogue of characters. I've heard you speak in great detail about your love for the work of Grant Morrison and Justice League, and that writer's skill, them going back and being able to look at perhaps underutilized or often overlooked or forgotten characters and bring them to the forefront and use them in a creative and interesting way from a story.
John, you talk about JLA so much, you should do a podcast about it.
Oh, well, I should. I mean, and Andy, thank you. That's astonishingly kind. And Ben, you were, inaccurate enough to say that I wasn't, I was too polite to plug this thing because I feel like I can say this because I feel slightly removed from it in that, like, the writing element is obviously in a very different camp to all the artists and developers that Sam's heading up and the work that's being done there. So I will say, and I think I'm qualified to say this because I feel like a slight kind of fly on the wall. just the work that everyone's doing on the game is exceptional, like absolutely mind-blowing. Like to somebody who doesn't know the first thing about ordering pixels or ones and zeros and occasionally a 2. I don't know how Sam's work works. But like every day to see the development work come in, and just, you know, to have like an artist who's focusing, say, just on one character for like a month and just getting like those animations just absolutely like just so tight, so precise. Like the artwork's amazing, like across the board, and I'm just enjoying it being so close to that and seeing it kind of come together. Like I have no idea how Sam and, you know, the people in the team do what they do. It's phenomenal. So yeah, like if I hadn't worked on it, this is where I swear I'm being honest when I say this. If I hadn't worked on it, I would be getting it, because it's looking amazing. Like I'm really excited for it.
Thanks, mate. Well, your writing is sets it apart, though. You know, like John, you know, he was joking about nepotism, but like there's nobody else that I would have, you know, gone to. Like instantly, John came to mind when they said it. I know other people that like writing and people that want to get into it and stuff, but no, John, it instantly came to mind, especially with the tone of the show, because it's you know, when I went back and I mean, I enjoyed the show as a kid, but when I went back and watched it again to prepare for this game, this is cleverer and funnier than I remembered it being. It's so self-aware, and it did remind me a lot of John's writing style, especially when I bring him in to do some comedy and stuff. It seemed right, and we wanted to work together again as well. So it just fit. But yeah, and you know, John sends me some scripts over, and obviously I send it to the guys at Retroware and everything, and I just look at it, it's like, yeah, no, this is exactly right. Like John, you can watch a show like that and just the characters, you just kind of, I don't know how to put it. It's like you can continue writing those characters and they are exactly the same people. Like, and I wouldn't know how to do that, right? I wrote the AVGN games. I was able to make the nerd, but like every single character in the Crusaders has their unique personalities, and you just kind of nailed them, and it feels like natural continuation of the show, and it's great.
Oh well, thank you. This is lovely. Is it normally
you guys,
so like nice on the show? Yeah.
Normally come round and it's like, and another thing. I gotta say, like, after I watched the Toxic Avenger movie for preparing for today, knowing that we were having you on and that it was following on from the cartoon show, I watched the first 2 episodes the other night. Again, it was, maybe I missed it as a kid, or maybe it had like just faded from my memory. But exactly the same as Sam says, like I was delighted with how tightly it's written and how funny it is as a show. I think I just been washed away in memories of the Turtles, and we'll probably touch on that a little bit later, I think. But like, I hadn't remembered something, but it's incredibly funnily written, and there's some great character in there as well. I love the banter between the villains as a part of it. It's just, I'm really looking, more so than beforehand, looking forward to seeing these characters in a new setting, and with that continuity. I may actually, content creation aside, I might go watch the rest of the series.
The writer, the lead writer, I think, don't quote me on this, but I know that one of the high ups involved in the creation of the writing of the show, went on to write sitcoms and things like The Big Bang Theory. And stuff like
Chuck
that.
Lorre was on the title of the first episode I watched.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and well, you can sort of see that, right? You think of, I know that's not the most popular show among nerds because it rips the piss out of us, but like if you Howard's mum's character and Toxie's mum and Bernadette is quite similar to Yvonne. There's this weird kind of parallel when you look at it, which is really cool.
God, I'd never made that connection. I'm just getting my mind blown at this point. Yeah. I'm kind of like I'm going to try and shy away from spoilers, but like it was interesting getting like all these other Troma kind of properties, and like here's the thing, like Sam's like the aficionado here. Like Sam, I remembered the cartoon, but I have to say, and I hope people don't hate me for this, I'd never seen the originals until like starting to work on this project. Like I remember the cartoon quite vividly, but it was interesting, like coming into kind of the Troma movies, like late, very late, and gaining this kind of new appreciation for them. And then the added challenge of going like, okay, can we take all that anarchic kind of humor and like gonzo filmmaking style, but also like pass it through this very fine sieve where like we like 90% of the content we just can't use because it would like, this is ostensibly like a kid-friendly game. So it was walking this fine line of going like, how can we pay homage to everything? How can we get all these references in? How can we keep it funny? But also knowing that like it's got to be passed through this weird filter of being like kind of kidified but not kidified at the same time.
Yeah.
It was a really weird line to walk. But I think I'm hoping that anyone who's a Troma fan will kind of just see like these things and go like, oh wait, hang on a minute. Oh, hang on. Like like it's amazing how much even, dare I say, some of the Toxie sequels get a look in as well, which is
great.
which is going to be something.
It's been weirdly common in my career as a game dev of the whole thing of adapt something in the style of something else, right? Because I did the Manos the Hands of Fate game. And when I made that, I watched a whole bunch of AVGN, and I was just an angry video game nerd. And I was just like, I'm going to adapt Manos the Hands of Fate in the style of the 80s NES game adaptations, right? In stuff LJN and stuff like that. And with Toxie, I was like, what would we do for a season 2? And I just thought, well, I like Troma, and I like the Toxic Avenger movies as well. And being that they adapted, I mean, it's not just, it's the Toxic Avenger, do a cartoon version, make a toy, right? And give him some friends. But no, like the first episode of Toxic Crusaders, it is the original Toxic Avenger
film,
movie.
right?
It's the beat for beat adaptation of that movie into a cartoon. And I was like, well, so I was like, well, I need to bring in some stuff from the sequels and adapt them in the style of as if this was 1992 and they were doing the kids' versions of all these. And there's a wealth of characters and ideas. And I just thought, while we're at it, and we have a deal, and the guys at Retroware have a deal with Troma, like Tromaville is like a cinematic universe, right? It's loose, doesn't have Kevin Feige in charge or whatever, but like the movies that exist in each other's world, Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD shows up in Toxic Avenger 4 and stuff. So I was like, well, let's go. Let's get Nukem High in there. Let's get Poultrygeist in there and make a Saturday morning cartoon version of fucking Poultrygeist. So it's been fun, and I hope that Troma fans notice.
I'd long considered, we've been flirting with the idea of doing a Troma film for quite a while, because our other co-host Luke and some of our other regular guests, big Troma fans. We were lucky enough, a few of us, to see Return to Nukem High Part 2 at a film festival.
Yeah, you got to say the name correctly.
Oh, go on, please correct me.
It's Return to Nukem High, aka Volume 2.
You see why I could get that wrong without notes in front of me. So we watched it with Uncle Lloyd himself in the room, and the touring actor that was dressed as Toxie at the time. And he spoke to us before and afterwards. We met and chatted with him at the bar after it was finished as well. Two of our friends that were with us had never seen a Troma movie before. So Ben, for your reference, for everyone who knows our wider friends, it was Dan and Carl were with us, and just watching their faces throughout this movie, having never seen a Troma film before. And for anyone who's listening who hasn't watched any Troma movies, I would say Toxic Avenger begins a tradition that has only become more and more extreme in keeping with the world and what it takes to shock a world over the the 40 years that have followed. Troma films are fiercely independent, very it's a unique form of cinema. If you're watching these things and you look at the old adage of talking about South Park saying, they push the boundaries and they try to offend everyone. If you think that they've been pushing the boundaries with South Park all those years, you've probably never seen a Troma movie. Because they do. They are deliberately provocative, deliberately schlocky in a load of ways. And by the time you've got to the Nukem High sequels, there is nothing they don't go after. And they're a delight to watch. I sat and watched the Toxic Avenger with my wife the other night, and I thought, oh, is this going to damage our relationship? She had fun. It was fine.
The divorce proceedings.
Yeah, we've definitely found the right people in our lives. She thought it was fun.
Fantastic.
But yeah, Troma movies is something special. And I genuinely thought for a while that I'd sneak Poultrygeist onto the menu for our first one. But this game coming around gave us the perfect reason to get some guests on and do the Toxic Avenger.
Perfect opportunity, and I think we should definitely focus on some other Troma movies in the near future as well.
We've broken the seal now, Ben.
Yeah,
we'll get through that back catalogue.
Crazy how it's almost been 300 episodes that we've still not covered a Troma movie, but still we're doing it now, so that's all that matters. Yeah, super exciting. We will put the links to the trailer for Toxic Crusaders in the show notes as well, so everybody can check it out. We've already shared it on our socials today as well. But yeah, it sounds like if you're a fan of Troma, if you're a fan of Toxie, or if you're a fan of like side-scrolling beat 'em up games, I think definitely.
Yeah, and whack a pre-order on your platform of choice. Get onto Mr. Nintendo and say, right, come on, pre-order all, please. Get on.
Pre-order all, yes, please. Yeah. Right. So, okay. Obviously, today we're going to be talking about the movie The Toxic Avenger. If you didn't already know that, after clicking on the episode, which you probably should. But first, before that, we are going to just do a little bit of horror news, just to cross the T's and dot the I's that we usually do cover on the show. So horror news for this week. There's a new A24 horror movie called Talk to Me, and a trailer is debuting tomorrow. So if you listen to this show, the trailer will be available to watch now. So it's an Australian horror movie, which is going to be released on July the 28th, 2023. Talk to Me delivers an intense, nightmarish horror movie that'll leave you breathless. Oh wow. There's a refreshing ruthlessness to this cautionary tale that plays like a surge of adrenaline. Okay, so we've not really got a synopsis. Oh, no, here we go.
I should have got John to write that.
Yeah,
come on,
no
John.
alliteration, poor.
Zero alliteration, must do better. I was looking for a synopsis. I've got one. The film follows a group of teenage friends that take up communion with the spirits at a party activity. Mia looks to connect with the supernatural following the death of her mother, but a seance gone wrong carries terrifying consequences for the group. Seance gone wrong is incredibly in right now, isn't it?
See, I'm still distracted, Ben. I could have said spooky seance.
Spooky seance. I wanted to see a film about a seance gone right, okay? Forget this seance got a negative. I want some positive vibes in my life.
You want
seance
some competency porn. Like, I just love it when people are good at their jobs.
This is all just part of the leading, media agenda. We always hear about seances going wrong, but, what about the 1% of the time where they go right, honestly?
Ouija, origin of evil, right? Because they don't believe in what they're doing, but it accidentally goes right.
Wait, in a way, if seances do make contact with evil spirits, they have gone right, haven't they?
Yeah, what's the purpose of it?
Yeah. What's a seance gone right? Like a nice ghost just says, "Here are the answers to everything you need to know. Goodbye."
Is the problem
he is buried here?
Is the problem with communing with the spirits? It's not necessarily the technology to contact them, because as we see from all those films, that connects quite successfully. It's a sorting, it's a directory issue. There, you're always getting the wrong number. Like, if they just sorted out the admin so you could always direct to the right person a little bit.
Yeah, and arguably, regardless of who they're trying to reach, like the bandwidth in every situation is incredible. Like, like that ghost is coming through,
Loud and clear in some occasions.
Well, you're jamming out to Tiny Tim with the lipstick face dude from Insidious.
Oh, God. Darth Maul. Was that almost a Peep Show quote there, John, when you said just like... We could just report all the seances that have gone correctly, but that would take forever. Okay? For God's sake. Okay, well, A24, obviously, when they do horror movies, they usually bring out the big guns, don't they? So, looking forward to seeing this trailer. The poster is like a creepy hand with loads of writing on it. Can't even read what it says.
The hand forms one of the letters in there. Oh, no, it forms the 2 in A24.
It forms the 2, yeah. So they've got somebody who's really good at... what's it called? Finger puppetry. And they've made a 2. I can't do it. But yeah, A24 horror movie. That sounds interesting. Other piece of horror news: the Five Nights at Freddy's movie has set a release date for Halloween of this year. We haven't got a trailer yet or any sort of real look. I guess there's one image that was shared on the like Blumhouse and social media pages, which is like somebody and an animatronic stood outside of the pizza place, with all the letters in the name of the pizza place flickering on and off. Terrifying. A troubled security guard. Well, if you played the games, you'll know, but for anyone who hasn't, a troubled security guard begins working at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. While spending his first night on the job, he realizes the night shift at Freddy's won't be so easy to make it through. Have you guys played these games? Are you fans or not so much?
Oh yes.
Oh yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
The actual gameplay I'm not the biggest fan of, but everything else, right? It's I won't wax lyrical on it for too long, but Scott Cawthon is just an example of how to respond to criticism, because it was he used to use Click Team Fusion, which was an engine I used to use a long time ago, and you can't make 3D in that, and you can't, but he used to like do pre-rendered Donkey Kong Country style stuff and put it into this game engine. And he was trying to make a game for kids called, I think it was Chipper and Sons, Wood Chipping Company or something like that. And James Stephanie Sterling on their channel did a video taking the piss out of the trailer. And they said that it looks like a terrifying animatronic. This game that's supposed to be for kids, it looks like terrifying animatronics. And Scott Cawthon's response to that was to go, well, he apparently he took it to heart at first and was a bit upset, and then came back as, well, I guess I can make scary animatronics then. Yeah. And genius. The fact is, the engine doesn't do 3D, but that was the one he used, and so he came up with the idea of doing this FMV style thing when, in a world where FMV games haven't been done since the Mega CD, and it's just like working around your limitations and criticism. That's a masterwork. And then all the lore involved and all the kids and everybody's talking about it, trying to figure out who, what did William Afton do? Who's the Purple Man? It's genius. And I hope they can pull it off in a movie. They've got Matthew Lillard involved, and that guy's incredible. So
I didn't know it was Matthew Lillard.
He's going to be William Afton, apparently. So
yeah.
So and Jim Henson. Well, not himself, but the Jim Henson company are doing the animatronics. This sounds like gold.
That would
me.
Be scary. So Josh Hutcherson, Matthew Lillard, Elizabeth Lale. So it's a pretty stacked cast.
It's really good to hear more about this now, because I think when it had been in just quiet production for so long, I had a few worries that the Nicolas Cage vehicle had kind of eaten their lunch a little bit.
Was it Willy's Wonderland?
Willy's Wonderland.
Wonderland, yeah.
Yeah, because that was my kind of basic understanding, is that the film had been kind of in like development for so long, and then you were almost getting all these imitators coming out, like the Banana Splits movie and the and Willy's Wonderland.
They sort of came out and said, legally distinct from, but evocative of this thing, and we've come out first. It's not like a Deep Impact Armageddon situation where they come out the same week or what have you. It's come out a couple of years in advance, but. No,
Dante's Peak and Volcano.
Really good. Yeah, exactly.
Be interesting
then.
That Five Nights at Freddy's retrospectively has a parody in Willy's Wonderland, right? Like it came out before it.
Yeah.
Willy's Wonderland's all right, though.
It's very good.
And also, I guess the weird thing is, I guess in video games like Five Nights at Freddy's, Sam, you'd be more informed than me to say this, but didn't it kind of spawn like a whole new genre of like Higgs mascot horror things? Like there's Sam, help me out.
Poppy's Playtime.
That's big now, right? I saw like literally like I was passing a local fete and there was literally like kids with balloons of.
Yeah, they've gone a little bit merchandise heavy on that one. It's been a little controversial for it. They were selling the merch for Chapter 2 before Chapter 2 even came out and things like that. But you got Bendy and the Ink Machine and all those. There was, what was it, Garten of Banban, which is everybody hates and apparently it's garbage, but it's the new one. And but you know what? I love that they're making movies of the creepypastas now. Apparently Slenderman was hugely disappointing, but apparently A24 are doing The Backrooms with Kane Pixels and James Wan, and that just sends me places when I think about that.
Yeah.
I've
I
only
heard
seen the
that recently.
first season of Channel Zero. I've only seen the Candle Cove one. I've not seen the others, but I think Luke has, and he's said they were good.
I was just going to bring up Candle Cove because I haven't seen Candle Cove, but like I have been following the work of Chris Stroud like for years and years and years and years, like even back to his podcasting days in like 2007, and like his webcomic Brood Hollow is one of the most just like underrated horror. How do you describe it? It's like Tintin meets Cthulhu kind of. It's just equally like, how do you make a comic that is both like a whimsical comedic adventure and also deeply horrific at the same time? So like, I love his mind, and it's so gratifying to see that like the stuff he's created, this analog horror stuff, has just suddenly blown up. You know, he's kind of one of the fathers of it. It's amazing.
It's exciting to see this type of thing coming out because, you know, they'll run out of Stephen King properties eventually. So it's good to see.
I don't know about that.
He's
publishing at least.
Writes them faster than they can make them, I guess.
Can you make an analog horror book?
Is that
the VHS tape buzzed for a while?
VHS tape buzzed for 45 seconds.
Written on abacus. Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Release this movie on daguerreotype or wax cylinder to kind
of... Here is a list of semaphore instructions.
Oh wow. Okay. And the last piece of news we've got is the cast for Maxine, the third movie in Ty West's X trilogy, has been announced this week. So obviously including Mia Goth, but also Kevin Bacon, Giancarlo Esposito, and I don't want to ruin anything for Sam, who hasn't even seen Pearl yet. However,
I can't legally watch it yet. It's not out here.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's understandable. What are they playing at? But yeah, so essentially, Maxine reverses the franchise's trajectory through time to pick up Maxine after the events of X. As a sole survivor, continues her journey towards fame, setting out to make it as an actress in 1980s Los Angeles. So who else did we get added to the? I can't remember. The list is disappeared. No, here we go. Elizabeth Debicki, Moses Sumney, Michelle Monaghan, Bobby Cannavale. Is that how you say his name? That Lily Collins, Halsey as well as Kevin Bacon. Pretty stacked cast as well. So that sounds exciting. I think I'm glad to see more of the character, and Mia Goth, I think, especially in the last 12 months, I've realized is probably one of the best lead horror actresses out there. So
one to watch.
Something else. One to watch, most definitely.
I mean, we will encourage the filmmakers of Maxine, while you're putting all this effort into getting a fabulous cast put together, kick your distributors at the arse, will you? Come on. We've got to see it this side of Christmas, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would
don't want to see
nice.
All of our American friends going, hey, no spoilers, but here's a couple of screenshots of the ending. And also, talking about, especially if you're on platforms like Twitter, people scroll downwards. So your spoiler tag came after the picture that spoiled it. So come on, please, if you could. Like, I can't hope to change all of the behaviors across people across social media. I can directly attack you and ask you to bring it out at the same time, you know, like films used to in the modern era, come out at the same time in countries that speak the same language. Come on, just if you
that
could.
would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be nice. Okay, well, that's all we've got for horror news. I guess the next section of the show is what we've been watching. Usually we do sort of like something from the last 7 days. It doesn't always have to be horror related. Could be horror adjacent. But if you've seen anything in the last 7 days, new or old, well, I guess we could talk about it. So, I mean, John and Sam, as your guests, would you like to, anything you'd like to mention first? Any new releases or anything?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's fitting. Maybe it's the most fitting thing in the world, but I've recently jumped into a horror game, so kind of like blending these two worlds here, called The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow.
Okay.
Yeah. I took a punt. It was a little different, maybe inspired by you guys, but it's deliberately, it's an indie production. It's I don't know much about developers, but I get the impression it's a small team. It's a deliberate throwback to point and click adventures. I'm not massively far into it. I'm still on the first day, although I actually have no idea how many days they're going to be. Maybe I'm in the end game already. But it's kind of set in a quasi, maybe late Victorian, early Edwardian kind of England. You're following a young archaeologist and a scientist. She's arrived on train in the nondescript northern town of Bewdley. It's just somewhere north and wet and grim. Then they've never kind of specified about exactly where, because you've been invited there to help with the excavation of Hobbs Barrow, because you're writing a book on barrows, and you just arrive in this kind of desolate, kind of rain and windswept little town of charming pixel art, like very. It alternates between you're navigating, it's very Monkey Island style, like you're navigating the village, pointing and clicking, solving puzzles, that sort of thing, and then interspersed with incredibly high resolution pixel art, showing like very intense close-ups on things which are sometimes quite disturbing. And I would say there's been nothing like overtly gory or horrific or anything like that, but it's very good at creating a sense of kind of dread, I think, with the audio mixing and stuff. So I'm really kind of swept up in it already. I've got to say, like, it is very well written, and I would recommend it. Like I said, I'm right in the middle of it. It's fun. It's got a good voice to it. And the northern people actually kind of sound like northern people, you know, which is good as well. So
not Bly Manor then, thankfully.
Oh god, just looking at it now, it looks great, and definitely very reminiscent of Monkey Island. I think even like the text when people are talking kind of looks very much. What are you playing this on, John?
I'm playing it on the Switch, and it's pretty good. I keep forgetting the Switch actually does have a touch screen. I think it would almost work better with a mouse, but it's functioning fine with the, you know, kind of twin stick and everything. But yeah, like I had to adjust the cursor speed right down because I was like trying to hit an item on the menu, and I just could not for the life of me. Like I was pinballing all over the screen. But yeah, it is very good.
Yeah, it looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah, I have to pick that up.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else that you've? Well, again, games are fine, but have you seen anything this week that?
I'm in a pit at the moment of not really watching much of anything. Like I realize that's the worst talking point in the world, but sometimes you just find yourself like caught between stuff. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. We just finished watching Tron Uprising, which was the cartoon sequel. No, it's cartoon prequel that came out after the 2010 movie. What was that called? Like Tron
Legacy.
Tron Legacy, yeah. A visually beautiful movie, and like the audio, the soundtrack, fantastic. The plot, you fit it on the back of a matchbox, basically. But like honestly, the cartoon, phenomenal. Like a full voice cast, like Elijah Wood, Lance Reddick.
Oh, wow.
Mandy Moore. It's great. Like it's incredible and visually just absolutely stunning. And I think I honestly now consider it to be the definitive Tron fiction. Like I think it's done more than either of the movies. And sadly, it just ended. It's about 10 years old now. They clearly were hoping to get a second series. They never did. It's on Disney Plus. It's visually stunning, and I think the lead character designer, I can't remember his name, which is terrible, but he went on to do a few pieces in Love, Death, and Robots. And there's the episode, is it Zima Blue? That's his style, like very, very angular kind of 2D. Like
is that from the first series?
I think so, yeah. And
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
also the
think-
one where they're running across the ice and there's like giant like ice worms and
Yeah, I
stuff.
remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it draws a very angular humanoid, but like
Mm.
oh, it's just incredible. Just been raving about it this past yeah, like
Yeah, just looking at the visual style now, it looks great. It looks right up my street. I mean, I've recently finished Cyberpunk Edge Runners on Netflix as well, which I really enjoyed. So
Forgotten that even came out. There's too much stuff.
there's too much stuff, exactly. Yeah, so
Cyberpunk anime used to be my jam. The odd
yeah,
Cyber City 080808 and AD Police and Bubblegum Crisis and all that
Oh, yeah.
crazy stuff.
amazing. Awesome. Anything in particular, Sam, that you've seen in the last week or so?
Yo, I haven't been to see any new releases other than Super Mario, and I don't think that counts. But
We can
because I've
discuss
been-
Super Mario. I've seen Super Mario.
No,
I saw it last
I
night.
have been watching. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
There's skeletons in it, aren't there? Those little dry bones.
Yeah, that's true.
There
but I have
is like
been-
a little horror moment. Sorry, Sam. Didn't mean to interrupt there.
No, you go
There
ahead.
is like a bit of an extended horror sequence, obviously very reminiscent of Luigi's Mansion, but still, I was like, if I was a little kid, I might be a little bit scared.
Yes,
And I'm not. I'm a grown man, all right.
I suppose so. But being this is the first time I've been on a horror podcast, I'm probably going to steer away from Super Mario.
Yeah, go on. Don't worry
Well,
about
not so much new stuff because there was a lot. I was working around the clock to be prepared for PAX East with Toxie, but I recently watched The Ritual, which is a few years old, which
Nice.
was really, really cool. I assume you guys have seen that, but that was
Yeah.
that was pretty awesome. I also got to a very old black and white one, The Old Dark House. Just because it's come up on the Evolution of Horror podcast, and they're doing a home
Oh, wow,
invasion
okay.
series, and that was like an old horror comedy. And I'm also a little bit obsessed with Skinamarink at the moment and the way it's polarizing people. And I thought it was fantastic. It scared the shite out of me. And I don't say that lightly, but it's also, some people think it's the worst thing they've ever seen. So I've watched it through about 3 or 4 times now, just obsessively, because it's, I think it's
Oh, you have.
magnificent.
Oh, wow.
I think
Okay.
if only we'd met you a few weeks earlier, Sam, we could have used your voice when we covered it because I think I polarized the other way. Not that I found it awful. I think I was really impacted by. Once again, it came out later here, and by the time we got it, it was already TikTok challenges, and everything I saw on social media was like, "I'll tell you what, absolutely cack my dacks watching this one." And then I watched it and thought my takeaway was fabulous art installation. I could have walked in, I could have popped my head around the door of the Tate Modern, seen it, and I was like, deeply unsettling. Play it in a room with infrasound going on in there, I would have thought it was fantastic. But for me, watching it with those expectations on my laptop in my otherwise
what are you
normal
doing?
house.
On
What
your
are you doing?
laptop? What are you
Oh,
doing? You need to see that video of David Lynch talking about, you can't experience a movie on a fucking telephone,
That makes me
On
more.
a telephone,
I'll
on a
tell you what,
pregnancy
David. Watch what I want.
Skinamarink is a vibe, man. You gotta have it. You gotta have all the lights off. And
Would you-
gotta
Didn't have
just
time
get
to buy a
everything.
CRT and set it up in my childhood house. If I watched it there, maybe I'd have had a different experience.
Would you have considered your pants any less dacked, Andy?
cacked? My dacks are my
Cacked.
pants.
What did I say?
You
Cacked your
asked
dacks.
dacked,
Dacked your
yeah.
cacks.
Yeah,
I fucked it up big time.
that's all right. We'll edit it out. We won't. No, I think I struggled with enough narratively to grip onto, and much like having, I think it came after it in the same calendar year. No, not the same. In the same 12-month period that I'd watched all of the Paranormal Activity movies as well. I'm just fed up with ethereal voices whispering at kids to do stuff.
Did you see the?
Leave me alone.
Did you guys see the little deleted scene thing that some guy animated on YouTube though for it?
Oh no, what's this?
It's
What
great.
was-
Look up Skinamarink deleted scene. It's basically a guy's animated like the grainy footage of the hallway, and they've got like a Wile E. Coyote style. They've got like an archway painted on the wall, like a tunnel, and the voice is going, "Kevin, run into the tunnel, Kevin, full speed. It's real, Kevin."
Oh my god.
I not to like monopolize airtime again because I spoke for long enough, but like I am fascinated, like obsessively fascinated with Skinamarink, and I haven't seen it. I've
wow,
seen
okay.
Heck, which is
yeah, it's really
the
good.
Yeah, that's a
YouTube
short film, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and like, it's Andy, I'm like caught between the two of you because I don't know what my reaction would be to it. I just know it's ticking all the boxes for me as something that would probably I don't like it. I love it and I can't look away. Like, it's awful, and it's tapping everything in my brain which is wrong and abnormal, and it's scaring me thinking about it. But I can't. I'm also just fascinated by it. Like, the trailer in itself is like a work of art. Like,
I think
that.
we had a lot.
Yeah.
We had a lot of constructive things to say about it. I think it has, you have to be in the correct mindset. You have to be watching it in the correct environment for it to truly scare you. This is how I felt anyway. And also, if you've already got like a bit of a, it kind of, if it activates something in you that kind of takes you back to this, puts you in this childlike, puts you like in your childhood home, being scared of all this sort of stuff, then I think it works. But if you haven't, if it can activate that part of you, then you're not gonna have a good time.
I think
with
we
it.
said on episode that, like, I think I could almost give it 2 ratings, one as a piece of art and one as a piece of entertainment.
Well, some 15 years ago, me and John were on we did a silly little podcast. This was like on some garbage website that I had at the time. But it was for Halloween, and we talked about horror. We said, it was John and a couple of friends. We were saying, what scares you? And I remember, John, you saying corridors. You said corridors and long things, like people with long, and I just remember, and because I remember when David Lynch's Inland Empire, when I first saw that, and I thought of you, and I was like, you need to see this. And
No.
that movie, Inland Empire, frightens me like nothing else. I still occasionally have Inland Empire nightmares. That movie is horrifying. And Skinamarink, God, man, it was a vibe. I really felt it. And but then, John, you're a storyteller. I'm a movie watcher. I don't know. I like pictures.
Oh, I don't know. I can't take any high ground because I haven't seen it. I like David Lynch's Rabbits. I find deeply unsettling on its own.
Which relates to Inland Empire because the rabbits are in that as well.
Yeah, I just I don't know, something about it. Like, I'm so glad it exists, and maybe I'll never watch Skinamarink because I'd rather just the idea of it almost like means more to me than, like, I almost don't want to see it now because probably I'll be too much of a coward. But like, I'm glad it exists. I feel like someone bottled something quite primal, and I can't really comment on whether it works as a movie or not.
Primal is a good word. Primal is a good word because I think this is why it's polarizing, because the thing about Skinamarink and Inland Empire and a lot of David Lynch is I'm quite frightened by not being able to understand what's going on, right? Like, Inland Empire, it falls apart. Like, the entire movie itself falls apart, and it goes total nonsense, but with just enough of a thread to keep you trying to follow. And that confusion is terrifying to me. And Skinamarink in the same way. Like, I think a lot of people are like, there's no the narrative isn't 3-act structure. That is like, yeah, good. That's why it's getting me, man, because I feel like I'm trapped in a nightmare that I can't get out of, and I'm seeing stuff in this film grain that probably isn't there, and I don't know what's going to happen next. And the static sound underneath everything is getting louder, and I don't know why. And it really, it's like being trapped, that movie. And it same with what's the other one, again, really polarizing. There was Darren Aronofsky's Mother, which was anxiety in film form. Yeah, and I know people whose opinions I really respect. And there's Ed, who does the certain prog podcast. I go on his show. It's like a prog rock thing, and he hated that movie, and I get it. But yeah, it seems to be the polarizing ones that frighten me the most. Then you got like Gaspar Noé and stuff like Climax and stuff like that. Climax. That if you just really get under my skin in a way, other than, I'm not against jump scares, I'm not against gore. I'm not one of those people. I love that as well. But yeah, if you really want me to remember, you gotta get under my skin in a weird way.
Oh, there you go. I probably, based on that, I probably do need to give it another watch on intended hardware. I'll get a CRT and watch it like in my in like the basement of my parents' house or
I
something.
hold no ill will because almost everybody else I've spoken to have seen it has hated it. It was just me. My mate Michelle thought it was all right. Ed from Prog thought it was one of the worst things he'd ever seen in his life. So, but it's a vibe.
From seeing the trailer and stuff, I was incredibly interested to watch it, and I needed to watch it to see it as soon as possible. But yeah, it just didn't quite connect with me.
Because you got to be on board for the ride as well, and
yeah.
if you're not on board,
As a way of bridging like the two camps here, and in honor of the video game tie-in, Andy, could you try watching it on what's the Nintendo like VR?
I get like a Labo.
Boy.
The Virtual Boy, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Virtual Boy. Oh, why not? And that would be unsettling and all in those like eye-damaging reds as well. Well, if I'm going to get new hardware for it, I might as well. I haven't got a CRT. I might as well buy a Virtual Boy and retrofit that. Now you've got me thinking about it there, guys, with your talk of what scares you. Genuinely, still the most afraid I think I've ever been in like a non-actual dangerous situation was the loss of context. And I think, again, we're of the right age. And Sam, you probably messed around with modding and stuff before you were a full-on developer. One of the scariest things that's ever happened to me was I was a teenager in my parents' house who I lived with at the time. I was playing some downloaded Duke Nukem 3D levels. And whoever had got it had coded into it a bit of audio from Phantasm where so I'm there with like headphones on playing Duke Nukem. That's a really yeah, and it goes, you play a good game, boy, but now the game is over and it is time for you to die. And I absolutely shit it. I was like,
Angus Scrimm's voice out of nowhere.
Angus Scrimm's voice out of nowhere into these headphones in, being a teenager. It was probably like, 1 a.m, and I was up late playing this video game when I should sensibly be in bed. And it's something which is so familiar, and that was a game I was playing downloaded levels and so on, so I was familiar with every angle of that, like every sound that game could make, everything that anything did. And then for this and I'd never seen Phantasm at the time,
the next thing you know, the baubles off the Christmas tree are drilling your brains out.
My goodness. I still think about that sometimes, and I can still capture what that. So if Skinner Break could find something that did that, I would be truly brutally afraid of it.
Oh, I'm sorry, you got me waxing lyrical about Phantasm. That's another polarizing one. Is Phantasm Ravager, the 5th Phantasm movie, and I fell in love with that series because I forget the name of the guy that directs, and he did John Dies at the End, and didn't he do Bubba Hotep maybe? But he the Phantasm 4 was this like road movie, and supposedly it was supposed to be building a budget for this huge massive finale he wanted to make, but it didn't do so well, but he just made it anyway. And Phantasm Ravager is like this huge ambitious thing with like sci-fi channel level CG because he didn't have the budget, but he made it anyway, and it's wonderful. It was so polarizing.
Phantasm 5, I think I've only seen the first 2.
Oh, you haven't seen Phantasm 3 is the best one, man. You got Rocky with the chick with the nunchucks, and you got a quadruple barreled shotguns, and you got like Home Alone but with gore. It's beautiful.
I have to run through this series as well.
It's one of the best.
Sounds like the next series you've got to tackle, I think, Andy.
Right, I'll get straight to it. But I've got some more. I've got some what's it called? I Spit on Your Grave sequels to get through. I'm kind of putting it off because I feel like it's going to be deeply unpleasant.
Yeah, that's not a good time.
Anything else you've seen this week, Andy, that you wanted to mention?
A couple that I'll mention quickly, Ben. So since last week, I watched 2009's The Collector. Tell you what, he's a horrible bloke, isn't he? Horrid little man coming in your house, setting traps everywhere. He's like Kevin McAllister has like gone to he's like Kevin McAllister from the darkest possible timeline.
Except Phantasm 3.
Yeah.
You see the sequel, The Collection?
I've not seen The Collection yet, but and I was reading about how the third one in the series just disappeared. It's in development hell somewhere. But yeah, it's kind of like this guy that dresses like Voldo from Soul Edge and kind of has like a Jigsaw vibe about him, but except without the whole I'm teaching you a lesson, actually. You should appreciate your life. Don't try really hard at your job or spy on people or do whatever. He just goes about collecting people, and he's horrible, deeply unsettling visually, sometimes but I really enjoyed it. It's a good movie. Was the Collector, and then I watched The Black Cauldron, which I'd never seen before. Bit of sort of classic animated horror. That was good. But yeah,
seen that for years.
Again, I could see why it sort of fell out of Disney popularity for a while. It's like, little furry friend does.
What is Gurgi supposed to be? What is he? Is he a dog?
Little trolley man, isn't he?
What, Gurgi? The little dog man? He's got like a mustache.
Troll dog mustache man. Yeah.
Troll dog mustache.
Yeah, between the bard being turned into a frog and being wedged in between that witch's cleavage, and then the guy, the cute little furry mascot, effectively sacrificing himself and being dead for a good portion of time, I can see why that one fell off Disney's radar for a little while. But I watched that and that was good. And then the last thing I watched was Raw Force, aka Kung Fu Cannibals.
What a triple bill, Andy! Jesus Christ!
Yeah, I mean, it makes the Toxic Avenger look absolutely like a high bar of production and moral values. But yeah, what a time!
Wow, amazing.
Apart from that, just the film of the week. How about you, Ben?
Just got a couple of things that's worth mentioning. So I saw Pulse for the first time, the Japanese 2001 spooky Ghost of the Internet film. I've never seen
the remake.
This. You've only seen? See, I didn't even know there was a remake. So this is one that I've always been meaning to see. And I kind of do enjoy like the spooky ghost flicks, Asian ghost flicks from around this time. I think maybe it's lost a bit of its charm just because of like the technology on show. Like it's nice to kind of see that sort of like creepy haunted modems and stuff like that. But I think once it goes from being like a sort of low level haunting thing to being like essentially the apocalypse, I think it lost me a bit. But I still think it's got some great visuals, you know, like what were you gonna say, Sam?
How about the woman in the corridor though?
Oh yeah, definitely. The woman in the corridor
terrifying
is great. Well, this is the thing, because I've been watching 101 Scariest Moments on Shudder. That all of the ones that popped up where I was like, I've not seen that, I'll make a note of it and make sure I watch them ASAP. That is genuinely scary. But yeah, there are some great actual moments. I think just in terms of plot, it let me down a little bit, but still great. And then some other Asian cinema I watched. So I rewatched one of my favorites, I Saw the Devil, which I guess you'd consider more like a horror thriller. So
Revenge.
Revenge, yeah, a revenge thriller, and it's starring Kim Ji-woon, who directed The Good, the Bad, the Weird. It's directed by Kim Ji-woon, who directed The Good, the Bad, the Weird, and stars Choi Min-sik, who obviously is Old Boy himself. It's like a really long, visceral, violent thriller, like cat and mouse game. But I think it's great. It's probably like one of the bleakest like vengeance films, and I think they all are bleak in a way, aren't they? But this is like the bleakest, where it's just like completely hopeless from start to finish. But there are some really good like moments that I think, and I guess like I've seen it compared to things like Seven and Zodiac and other things like that. I don't think it's quite as complicated as that. It is just a straight up violent thriller, but I love it. And it's
sorry I've cut in so much. I'm sorry I've cut in so much. You guys, this is music to my ears, man. That was a really good movie too. I wasn't big on how the women characters were in that movie. It was what they call it, fridging, you know, where like they pretty much all existed to get hurt horribly to give the men more motivation.
Yeah.
But aside from that movie is a banger.
It's a banger.
Really sucks you in.
Like Choi Min-sik as well. I think in terms of his performance, like you pretty much forget it's that actor. You don't think of him as Old Boy at all in that film. You just think he is the most dirty, disgusting, horrible bloke ever. And it's like really over the top as well, you know. It starts off as just like a fairly realistic sort of film, and then they go to a house where some cannibals live. It's great. If you've not seen it before, I really recommend it. It's just a really good film. And then the last thing that I'm going to mention, which I watched this week, was I watched the Living with Chucky documentary, which is now on Screambox. directed by Kyra Elise Gardner, and it's got Brad Dourif and Fiona Dourif kind of like waxing lyrical all the way about the Chucky franchise, for all the movies up into the TV show as well, which I haven't seen. I know you have, Andy. But yeah, it's great. It's just another one of those sort of like franchise retrospective documentaries. Yeah, and it's really fascinating as well. Some behind the scenes stuff, some stuff I wasn't familiar with, some stuff I was. But yeah, great way to spend a couple of hours with.
Where does this
Homicidal Doll
run in your franchise rerun lengthy documentaries?
Franchise rerun lengthy documentaries. I would say it's a
bit
much
short for
more,
your taste.
It's a bit short for my taste, yeah. So obviously, like the
Only
Friday the
3 hours
13th,
long.
Nightmare on Elm Street ones are like 8 and 9 hours. This is only 2 hours. I think this kind of makes sense. It kind of skips over like Chucky 3 and 4, maybe a bit quickly. It's almost like maybe 2 and 3 actually, not 3 and 4. 2 and 3. It kind of goes, all right, okay, let's get 2 and 3 out of the way so we can move on to Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky, which is a bit disappointing. But apart from that, it is really fascinating to see how the film's developed, and obviously with the director as well, the fact that he's obviously still involved in the TV show as well. What's his name? Don Mancini. Yeah. I mean, it's great. I highly recommend it. I can't get enough of this sort of stuff. I would watch a In Search of Darkness 80s documentary forever, from now until the end of time. Just start it now.
Just use an algorithm to just loop it.
Yeah, when you've got like those YouTube channels which are just like constantly looping something like a creepypasta or something like that, I would just constantly watch documentaries about 80s horror.
You get to the end of Crystal Lake Memories, you're like, I want them to make more movies so they can keep talking.
Yeah, it's like a Game of Thrones scenario by the end, isn't it? You're just like, surely they've written something else. Surely something else has happened in this time. But yeah, I really do recommend Living with Chucky, definitely. But that is it for me, apart from the film of the week, which we've all seen, which is The Toxic Avenger. Now, you've already mentioned, I didn't want to jump in when you mentioned this, but you mentioned some people not ever seeing a Troma movie. I have never seen a Troma movie before I watched this. Yes, I'm that guy.
So thank you. I thought we were going to have like I don't know, I thought it'd be some ritual sacrifice on air, because I thought I'd be like the neophyte here. That's amazing.
The fact that I'm actually like a co-host on this podcast where we're like almost 300 episodes in, and I've never seen a Troma movie. And obviously, Andy and Luke, you guys have always sort of talked about Troma movies and your love for them, and I've always gone, I should probably get around to that. But The Toxic Avenger for me felt like exactly what I expected, but so much more. It was like, I was like this so many times. Surely they're not going to show that. Oh, they are. They are. They've shown it, and they're taking Polaroid pictures of it. Great. But yeah, sometimes you just get little cinematic blind spots, don't you? And this has always just been one of those for me. And a lot of my cinematic blind spots I've managed to kind of bring into focus from this podcast, and obviously this is another example of that. So I will just quickly introduce the film. So The Toxic Avenger is a 1984 American superhero black comedy splatter film directed by Michael Herz and Lloyd Kaufman, written by Kaufman and Joe Ritter. It is the first installment of the Toxic Avenger franchise, released by Troma Entertainment. And a brief plot synopsis: Tromaville has a monstrous new hero. The Toxic Avenger is born when meek mop boy Melvin, how's that for alliteration, falls into a vat of toxic waste. Now, evildoers will have a lot to lose. So it's got 6.2 on IMDb, 70% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, 64% audience score, 3.3 on Letterboxd, and I've got some choice reviews here. Cinema Void gives it 4 stars and says, the only toxic relationship I want in my life. Luna says, gloriously raunchy, unforgivably violent, and stupid as fuck. 3 stars. Rocco says, the only superhero film that matters. 5 stars. And Blake Bergman says, watching The Toxic Avenger is as much a transformative experience for the viewer as it is for Melvin and his mop. 5 stars. So there we go. Obviously a cult movie in a way, but also one that's extremely popular with certain some sections of horror fans. What is everybody's relationship, I guess, with this film? Some a longer relationship than others, it would seem.
Who's going first?
Well,
you go for it. You go
yeah,
for it.
you're
Yeah, go on,
the man,
Sam.
I
You
think.
roll.
Oh, thank you. Sure. Well, I'd seen it with Troma. Actually, I had a lot of brushing up to do when I got this job, but I'd seen Toxic Avenger, Poultrygeist, Cannibal, the musical, and a few of their other ones. But way back when I first watched Toxic Avenger, it was because I was really into horror. Well, as far back as I can remember, but there was a website, and I don't know where it ever went, but there was this fantastic website in the early 2000s called splatter. And you'd go on there, and it was like real short reviews of films, and it was almost like an encyclopedia of horror. So you go in like alphabetical order and just a list of horror movies, and this guy would make like maybe a paragraph or two about the film. That was it. He'd put his opinion in, and sometimes they weren't ones that aligned with the general consensus, which is always nice to see. But it would also link in between them. So it would go, oh, such and such went on to make this, and there's the link to the next one. And so I got into a lot of horror movies by following links on that website, going down the rabbit hole. And Toxic Avenger come up on there a lot, and it was just in the list, you know. And I watched it, not really knowing much about Troma. And the funny thing is, I remember when I first watched it, I was like, "This is great. This is so much fun. This almost puts me in mind of like Mario Bava's Demons or something like that." And was it Mario? No, was it Lamberto Bava's Demons? It doesn't matter. But I went down that rabbit hole. And the crazy thing is, it wasn't until I saw the Angry Video Game Nerd episode that I realized the cartoon I liked as a kid and that movie were related. So I loved the Toxic Avenger, and I was watching AVG, and I was like, "Oh, that's the same thing." And so I just got into it. I just used to buy the DVDs, you know, or the videos or whatever was on sale, based on that splatter website. And I don't know to this day where it went, but it was that and Poultrygeist and stuff, you know. And that's my relationship with the movie, really. It's just the cartoon, and they converged like that, and I didn't even know.
How about you, Andy? Have you got a longer relationship with this film as well?
For me, Ben, let me think now. I think it was a long time ago that I saw it. I think I didn't see them in order. Certainly not quite so long ago as like 1984. But I think I saw like a Toxic Avenger 2 or 3 like late at night when we were at a friend's house, just like flicking through the Sky channels late at night. And it was on. And I mean, some of, you know, you grow apart. And maybe this is why, you know, real life horror, one of the first moments I noticed it, because I was flicking through the channels. People were having some drinks and, you know, just casually sitting around the house. I stopped and we got to Toxic Avenger. I was sitting enjoying it. Some of the others like, what is this shit? Turn it over. And I was like, you know, maybe our time together has come to an end, because I was having a delightful time, and I went and sought out Troma from then.
Turn it off is shit. Yeah, it is, isn't it? I'm just gonna keep watching it until it gets better.
Oh, all right. Then we you know, I ain't gonna press many more channels before those ones where it's just like dating videos of people and you know, like late night poker. Can we not just stay and watch this horror movie? No. Then I went back and I found Toxic Avenger, the original, from there, and then was into checking out Troma movies and movies from, you know, similar types of movie that have the same sensibilities about them. So I think Poultrygeist was my favorite for a long time. Poultrygeist is one of the few films I took with me on a hard drive when I moved to Korea, and like meeting people out there, it's like, oh, okay, we're becoming friends now. Maybe we should sit and watch this movie, and then that'd be a good barometer. Yeah, what's on this?
It was the best musical about zombie chickens I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely,
definitely in the top 5,
unsurpassed in its field. So yeah, that's that one. And then, you know, I don't have a universal knowledge of Troma movies. I haven't seen any Sergeant Kabuki Man. I haven't seen Shakespeare's Shit Show yet. There's loads of stuff I want to check out from them, but I think you could maybe overdose on Troma. Maybe it'd sound a bit peculiar if you just watched it back to back. But I always have a good time watching one of their movies. So yeah, and Toxic Avengers kind of, I don't know, I think it's a fairly good entryway into it. I think it was certainly, I put it on for my wife and I was happy for her to watch this one with me, despite joking that, well, should I be worried? I was less worried about this one than I would have some of the more modern stuff. But yeah, that's my history. How about you, John? I think I heard you say on another podcast you've been blitzing it all in preparation, right?
Yeah, like here's the thing. Like I prior to working on the project, I'd never seen a Troma movie, and I remembered the cartoon, and in doing the research, it was going back to Nukem High 2, or Return to Nukem High.
Return to Nukem High, I think, is the 4th, technically.
Yeah,
but,
so
it's that Halloween H2O thing where it disregards 2 and 3.
Yeah. So I did a classic Nukem High Part 2, Subhumanoid Meltdown. So I've got my notes here. And I was going through now at Sam's recommendation, I skipped 2 and 3 of the Toxie movies and went to Toxic Avenger 4, Citizen Toxie, which is like it's I feel like there's this massive like cosmic asterisk like just floating over everything when you're talking about Troma, because you have to go like, again, try to explain it to like the normal people in your life, the quote unquote the normal people in your life, and you're like, okay, so it's not good, but like it's kind of brilliant. Like you just get this complete, like your brain can't hold two really complex thoughts at the same time. Like of all the ones I've seen, I think Toxic Avenger might be the most competently made. Like I'm trying to think, but like you just get like, now I'm starting to go like, oh yeah, this is how like Troma cuts a movie. Like you just get the impression that like they just basically left the camera running and got like 48 hours of just madness while they destroyed a place and then cut it into a movie. And yeah, and it's so weird. Like I really enjoyed them. Like even Class of Nukem High Part 2, which is not good. Like like I found myself kind of like the protagonist. I can't even remember his character's name, but
that
like
Chad looking guy, the blonde guy.
He was like the biggest, like a mirror universe Clark Kent, just like the biggest dude you've ever seen. And he's like the campus reporter. And he would just say like these words of like profound literacy in the middle of like utter nonsense. Like this one quote that stuck with me where like there's an orgy going on. There's like people getting like shot and stabbed. There's like just like government agents like hosing people down. Everyone's naked. And he's just in the middle talking into a dictaphone going like, I am not proud of this world to which I am an occupant. And I don't know, like I think that kind of sums it all up. Like I think the word punk gets bandied about a lot, like with wild abandon, but I think for the first time in kind of really going into Troma movies, I think I kind of got it. And it's so funny, like particularly going to like watching Toxic Avenger, any of these movies, like on paper, these are poorly made, offensive movies that nobody should enjoy. Like they're not made for humans. Who are these made for? And then you actually watch them, and they're like, there's something going on here that's kind of genius, and I love it. And like Toxic Avenger, like I was laughing. I was having a great time. Like it's in many ways it's barely a movie. It's like a collection of crazy things, just enough to make a plot, and it's bare bones, but like it's great. Like
I think you nailed it when you said punk. It's just like punk rock music. I think of how people must have felt the first time they heard the Sex Pistols or whatever. It's like, this isn't how you do music. Well, it is now.
Yeah, this is how we do music. And you're right. I think that you put it perfectly, John. Like, I think it takes a great amount of cleverness, almost genius level intellect, to make something deliberately this stupid. I think like it cannot be by accident. I don't think you could create this accidentally. I think the people who made it knew exactly what they were doing. It wasn't that they were trying to make something different and it's just formed together. It's not like a The Room situation where they could say, oh yeah, I meant to make a comedy, don't worry. Like there's something very deliberate about what they've done here.
There's a moment in Toxic Avenger 4 when I first saw that. I was at my Mensky's house, and Mensky's been involved in the production of the game. Actually, helped me design the combat system because he's something of an authority on beat 'em ups and stuff in the UK retro gaming scene. But I first saw it because he sort of helped me brush up on my Troma, because I've seen a few of the films, and I wasn't certified Troma fan as such, but I loved Toxic Avenger and I like Poltergeist and stuff. And yeah, I watched Toxic Avenger 4 with him, and there was a moment where I found myself like howling, laughing at a joke which is like you can't make that joke. But the thing is, it's like I'm not here laughing at an age joke, right? I'm laughing at the fact that the guy said it. But that the people holding the camera are laughing because he said it, right? The joke isn't haha AIDS. The joke is haha, this guy just said that. Does that make sense? They're it's like you're on the same level with them. And if somebody saw it and thought this is disgusting, offensive, I hate it, I understand. And I think Troma understand too. And I think that's why they get away with a lot of it, because they're not looking to. Does this make sense?
Yeah, the team behind Troma, like Lloyd, Kaufman, and everyone else, are not getting the letters and saying, "Oh shit, these people are offended. I never meant for this to happen. How has this happened?" Like they design these films with this very much in mind, that this is what it's going to create. And I think, yeah, Toxic Avenger 1984, like you look at the films that have come afterwards, they have leaned into that hard, and they really do. I think films that are that extreme level, you've got it exactly right, and they know what they're doing. It's a phenomenal way to approach filmmaking.
And just to comment on like the sheer brazen offensiveness of like everything, like just from my humble kind of soapbox, because you go in with like all your sensibilities lined up and you think, oh god, this is going to be a shock to the system, and it's almost so cartoonishly aggressively offensive to everyone that like it kind of comes across like I'd go like, it's not mean-spirited. It doesn't feel mean-spirited. It just feels silly. It's kind of fun.
It almost goes full circle. It goes so offensive that it comes all the way back around to just being kind of just silly, and that's it. And that they could pretty much say anything and get away with anything because it's not mean-spirited.
It's go like there's James Wan James Gunn. Thank you. James Gunn in a wheelchair, like drooling. And that's the guy that makes the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and you got Stan Lee doing voiceover, and none of these people have been cancelled by association, because it's like everybody's in on the joke.
To be honest, I like Toxic Avenger 4, like James Gunn's running with like some of his questionable past coming back to haunt him. I'm like, had they seen Toxic Avenger 4?
Talk about some tweets and there's this, right?
Yeah, like would you have hired him if you'd seen that stuff? Jeez Louise.
I think hired him because of Toxic Avenger 4.
Yeah.
I think if you look at it though, like Toxic Avenger and by overall Troma movies, the fairest thing to say about it is that films that you will get in, certainly sounds like we all did, maybe not for everyone, but they're the films that you might watch and then you might enjoy, and you'll, for either accidentally or on purpose, you'll find yourself enjoying them, and then we'll have a quick look around the room to see if anyone else has watched, has witnessed you enjoing them, because whatever would they think?
It's interesting, isn't it? But, people talk about. Sorry, John.
Oh no, sorry, Sam. I was just going to say very quickly. You guys might be able to correct me on this, but isn't there a Roger Ebert quote where he's talking about like the Zucker movies, like Airplane and stuff, and was saying like all their jokes work on two levels, because you laugh at the joke and then you laugh at yourself for laughing at something so stupid in the first place.
That's brilliant. Yeah, and I think there's that's coming in, and there's several times in this particular movie I was laughing at things on there, and I was like, This is so stupid that I'm laughing at this, but it is very funny.
Yeah, it's stupid, like it's shocking. And as I mentioned at the top there, you just think, okay, I can understand where this is going, but surely they're not going to show it. And then are they going to show a dog getting shot? Yeah. Are they going to show a baby getting a shotgun aimed at its head? Yes.
Yeah.
Are they going to linger on that?
I was thinking that. So that's an actual baby. You can't explain that this is a nice man with a painted face. You are pointing a gun at a baby's face. And then with the dog, yes, it's already fun. And then it's made funnier by the fact that the dog is called Gary the guide dog.
And then like a blind character who you're like, oh, I surely can't make too many jokes about this blind character, can they? And then they go back to her house.
She's got so many like white sticks.
Oh man, it was great. I mean, in a way, like it leans heavily into a lot of cliches, but it like really makes those cliches its own. And it's like a I'm just laughing. Like the whole just nerd gets his own back on bastards scenario, but they're not just bastards; they're literal psychopathic murderers who are running people down with their car.
Bozo
Bastards.
and Slug and Wanda, and the name game on this film is phenomenal. I mean, our main antagonist kind of thrown out, but yes, Cigar Face and his mates Knuckles and Nipples.
Knuckles. It was just Oh man. Okay.
The bit that kind of got me was when after Foxy, our hero, seemingly goes off the rails and like murders an innocent old woman, just kind of going about her business, and they're like, oh no, he's finally become a menace. Like up until now, he's only been killing like evil people. And then it turns out that old lady was like, no, she was a wanted criminal and also the head of a massive white slavery ring.
Yes, she's like a huge mobster, so it's okay. And the corrupt mayor's like, we'll keep that quiet. We need to make sure she's seen as a pillar of the community.
What does he say when he puts her in the washing machine?
I can't repeat that.
I've already done it.
What did you say? I can't remember.
No, he says no ticky, no washi.
Yeah, he does.
Which was an old play on Asian people owning
an incredibly
incredibly
racist stereotype.
Yeah,
but do you know what I mean? Even I think that probably was the one where I was like, okay, probably of its time, more so like the rest of the horrible stuff disappearing on this. But yeah, I wasn't setting you guys up for that. I genuinely couldn't remember. I wasn't just right. Who's got the balls to say this? Okay, so I mean,
when you have an extended scene where like the high school bullies are, every night they go out in their car and run people over because that's how they get off, and then to just like cap that scene with going like, oh man, I'd love to go kill another person, but I can't. I've got to have an early night. It's like, why? Yeah. Well, I'm going to church tomorrow. Like, yeah. And it's like it's like an anti-joke. And yet it's like I shouldn't laugh, but I do. Oh, it's bad.
You shouldn't laugh, but you can't help it. And that's kind of it with this film. So in terms of cast, we've got Mitch Cohen stars as Melvin Ferd, Melvin Ferd, Junker the Third. As a Toxic Avenger, and Kenneth Cassier is the voice. Is he the body? No. And then another guy is the body, I think. You know what? There's probably no point reading out the cast because there's so many crazy characters in this. I guess Pat Ryan as the mayor is like the main big bad, and Andre Miranda as Sarah is sort of like the love interest for Toxie as well. And apart from that, the cast is just made up of various bastards with nicknames who basically get what's coming to them. So yeah, in terms of the plot, so it takes place in Tromaville, New Jersey, and focuses mainly on this health club. What's the health club called?
What was it? It was Tromaville Health Club, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just called Tromaville Health Club, I believe. Yeah.
Big UK energy, big UK street energy. I assume it was filmed in the US, but
New Jersey,
I think any like 90s UK street, with a laundrette or something on, felt like the setting of the Tromaville Health Club.
And an extended cut of the song, is it Body Talk or some version of that,
to add that to my playlist. What a time!
Sorry, the first 12
Banging
minutes of
soundtrack, yeah.
which is just goes alongside everybody working out, and obviously Melvin just mopping and being a very, very cartoonish, over the top version of like a
weakling.
A weakling. Well, that's what he's described, isn't it? Melvin Junker the Third is a weakling who works as a janitor, and he can't even bloody mop right. Okay, he's mopping people's faces in the hot tub.
Bozo is so like this guy that has like a tendency to become incredibly like vocally stressed. Like, I'm so stressed.
He has got a hell of a lot of problems, genuine problems that I think he needs to be on medication for, because he's got like anger issues. Clearly, he's a psychopath. Things have to be a very particular certain way for him. So maybe he's got like ADHD, OCD, some things.
No, he's got some body dysmorphia. He thinks he's getting a bit fat, so does loads.
He's got body dysmorphia. He's like fat. I'll tell you what, get rid of that fat. Just some standard chest exercises.
Or even like him and Slug like doing alternate kind of like crunches, like facing each other, but they're passing like a cigarette like back and forth.
Yeah. When we're introduced to like this health club, I was just looking at all the characters in the background as well. It was just absolutely fascinating, the colorful characters that were around. There was one guy he couldn't lift it, could he? And he just got dragged off. Yeah, if you're not going to use it, it's my turn.
Yeah, classic. Like any health club in this country, I imagine, that you go to, all the characters you'd meet.
Supposedly, Lloyd Kaufman, he was a pre-production supervisor on Rocky, and when he was at the gym that they were using there, he just was like, "Wait, I need to make a horror movie set in a health club." It's just there's too much stuff here that could be used. And then supposedly they also wanted to make a superhero from New Jersey, and those two ideas became the same thing.
That's it. I didn't know there was a connection between Lloyd Kaufman and Rocky, because I'd heard anecdotally like a couple of weeks ago that Troma cut their movies on the same machine that Rocky was cut on.
Oh wow!
So I did like Lloyd Kaufman kind of like just put it in the back of a van one day and kind of take it back to New Jersey.
His day job.
Yeah,
it's just listed as pre-production supervisor, so I don't entirely know what that entails. But
yeah, because apparently John Waters was gonna. Oh, I think he was gonna Pink Flamingos. So he was gonna do it through Troma, and then he saw their editing rig. And apparently it was so like it was already like a decade old, and he was like, I can't do this. So like I've got to go somewhere with a better setup.
Dude, the person that made Pink Flamingos turns down your editing rig. You need a new editing rig.
No thanks. It needs a bit more professional.
The movie where somebody literally eats a dog shit for and they just actually ate it for the film. And oh no, the editing rig isn't good enough.
If you're gonna eat dog shit, you want that very well done.
Oh yeah, you got to capture that moment. So yeah, obviously Melvin is mopping up, just being a nuisance. It seems that's not very fair to him, but mopping people's faces. But loads of people are necking on in the old. A
health club to be a member of. Tell you what,
it's horrific. It's horrific. Like I stressed enough going into like gyms and health clubs, I think, but. Imagine just walking into. I'll just turn and leave. You know, hopefully you could get like a week's pass or something. You don't have to sign a long-term contract, because my God, I would not want.
You'd never get past the free weekend, would you?
No.
Yeah, I mean, regular health clubs in this country, the worst about to deal with is men using the hairdryers to dry themselves off with, just standing naked in the showers.
Yeah,
slightly less eccentric than all of the characters you'd meet at the Tromaville Health Club.
Only slightly less, yeah, exactly.
Is that a thing? I've never heard of it.
It's been a while.
It's usually older gentlemen who maybe have more pubic hair, possibly, that feel like they need to take a hairdryer to it rather than just
in a communal
a standard
area,
towel. Yeah. I think what it is like.
Got the communal hairdryers. I'm just going to give myself a little blast. My skin's a bit too sensitive to actually towel dry this shit.
Yeah, what you want to do is just I like to face a corner when I'm in when I'm in a changing room like that.
Like
Just
the
don't
end
look
of a
them
Blair
directly in
Witch.
the eye. Exactly like the end of the Blair Witch. And then someone just bludgeons me to death.
I just like that we all got so caught up on kind of like the etiquette of using a hairdryer down there, but we missed the fact that Andy just casually dropped that he lived in another country, like international man of mystery. You've
He's
been
lived in
everywhere.
many countries. He's lived in Korea. Was it Poland?
Good one.
Where
yeah.
else?
Yeah, good career, Poland.
Yeah. I reckon secret. There's a John Wick scenario going down here. I reckon.
Yeah, pay for everything with an inexplicable currency of golden coins.
Kill people with a pencil.
You're just chucking like golden chocolate coins at every border guard you meet. Like, what are you doing?
You don't need to see my paperwork. Here we go. Yeah, that was a hive of people drying their bodies with the hairdryer thing. I'm not sure if if it's exclusive to that country. I have not observed it in this country, but I've not been a member of a gym here. It's less affordable.
I've observed it in this country.
Yeah, but yeah, there we go. So all those people, though, far less eccentric than the folks that you get, only slightly, than at a Tromaville related health club.
Yeah, it's fairly realistic.
Yeah, after causing them a minor bit of inconvenience, the guys, the baddies, I mean, they do pause to have a little bit of sex in the changing rooms and to quickly look at an orgy of evidence to prove that they are the hit and run killers that are plaguing the town, because they've literally been keeping the newspaper clippings.
Jesus. Yeah, so they kind of like they've got the gym to themselves for the night. Who is it? Is it Slug and
Julie? Yeah.
Yeah. And then Melvin's still there, because it's his job, it's his place of work. Let him exist, will you? But no, he sees them having sex, and what does he do? Laugh. He laughs at it.
Gorms at him for a little bit, doesn't
he? Standard Gorman laugh.
Yeah, even for like an 80s like high school like victim, if you will, Melvin's not massively he's got a massively sympathetic character. Like when you just see him kind of like, as you say, gorming on this couple kind of having sex, like gorming, and when he's away.
When he's like propositioned for sex with someone who's clearly treated him like utter shit throughout the duration of the film so far, he's like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll get involved. I'll wear a pink tutu. Yeah, why not? I suppose. Let's do it. Also, did you notice when during the sex scene when Melvin was like gorming over them, she had a knife ready to go. Like she looked up and she had a knife ready to threaten him with, like immediately to hand. That's what I like to do when I'm in any sort of intimate scenario. Just have a knife ready to go in case anyone walks in.
You say that.
Protection, as they say.
Exactly, yeah.
Genuinely, secondhand, I've heard a story of that happening to a person at a house party. I won't go into any details to
Is this in Poland as well?
No, this was a UK story, but I won't go into full details to protect the identities of the innocent. But my friend was staying at someone's house after a night out. He didn't know particularly well, and then sort of in the middle of the night, slightly drunk, wandered out to go to the bathroom. The house party had continued. The room he was sleeping, he sort of got up, wandered around to see what was going on because they were still there, and then he walked into this room where these two people were having sex. One of them grabbed a knife and pointed to get out.
Yeah. Jesus, what, like a butter knife?
I didn't.
Switchblade? What's going on?
I'm imagining Switchblade. But yeah, Julie's straight on with them to get out, but then they hatch a plan to get their revenge on him for annoying them.
Yeah. Then we get to see them going off and exacting the crimes of murdering people in their car.
I think this is the first bit where you know the type of film that you're in for, right? Because you see this little boy said, "Hey, go up, be careful out on your bike." "I will, sis. See you later."
First of all, it's real life Carmageddon. Second of all, why is the kid going out riding his bike at 11 o'clock at night or whatever? It's just like, make sure you wear your helmet. Don't worry about lights or any sort of reflective items on your bike or person. Just get out and have fun. Get out and have a good time.
I've got to get my miles in. See you in a bit. Dressed as a spaceman.
Get the miles in. Yeah, and then obviously the criminals start running through the list of point scoring systems. They do seem to have some people that they won't go for, which seem to include dogs, prams, But
Oh, I
obviously
thought that was a checklist.
Was it a checklist?
Well, I was going for
Mate,
it was like some things that were crossed off.
You've given them far more but a benefit of the doubt than I. Well, I've given them more of a benefit of the doubt than you
You
do.
were like, oh no, they've got limits.
I'll never do that. But yeah, of course, kids under 12. But you got to kill them. Can't graze them. They're all swigging Jack Daniels as well when they're doing it. And that's when they see the kid and decide to run him down. I kind of thought it wasn't going to be that brutal, but it was horrific. Knock him over and then reverse over his head.
I think they used a melon, for the effect, and it just bursts under the tire.
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
surprisingly, effective head splatter for, this wasn't like high end prosthetics, and yet it did look pretty good.
Weirdly common to use melons for head explosions for some reason. The famous head explosion in Scanners was a melon full of like sheep's guts and all and apple cores and all sorts of crap, and then you just fired a shotgun at it. Melons and heads, apparently.
There we go. A lot more in common than we'd even think. And also the post act murder looks really convincing as well. Like the fact he's crawling along and he's not dead, you're gonna have to reverse and go and take him out.
Get half points, and if you don't finish him off.
And both the women jump out and take Polaroids.
And of course, because you're in a pre-mobile phone world, so you've got to come up with your full-on SLRs.
How have they managed to all find each other in this town of Tromaville? They've all managed to find a group of people who murdering children and taking photos of it. I feel like it would never come up in conversation.
Where you could share that as an interest. Back then, you'd have to actually bring it up in conversations.
Sure, they meet at that dodgy gym.
Yeah.
Where most people are
into something.
It's actually quite rewarding to see just two Hollywood relationships where everybody's on the same page. Like everyone, it's actually really nice to see people whose interests align, just kind of enjoying each other's work.
That's true. But at the first
enjoying it a great deal. Is it Julie in particular gets off on looking at those photos?
Yeah, but of course, this comes later, so I won't spoil it at this stage. But yeah, the next thing they do is hatch a plan to essentially humiliate Melvin, which is quite it's not as intense as the crimes they have been committing. They're literally just going to dress him up in a tutu and try to set it up so that I think it's Julie, isn't
make him hug a sheep.
Yeah, so Julie sets out I want you to come and meet me in the pool. We're going to get it on, and then we're going to have a lovely dip afterwards. And Melvin, I say bless his heart, but he goes along with it. Goes along wearing the pink tutu. This is sissy stuff. Yeah, well, actually, I really like that. And we don't kink shame here, okay? So the fact that I'm into that, you should understand.
I think wearing a pink tutu would be the least kinky thing anyone in Tromaville has ever done.
Yeah. Well, I say yeah, but I can imagine. How did they get? So they managed to get that sheep and get Melvin to hug the sheep but he's surrounded by literally everyone who's got a membership to that health club.
Yeah, the gym is absolutely packed out to the rafters. I imagine in a scene, but they've all got Buffalo Bill's night vision goggles on to just step quietly out of his way.
But there's
some amazing facial hair in that crowd as well.
This is the wonderful
mustaches.
The whole thing is it's like a caricature of a real scene, because we know how this scene is meant to play out. It's meant to be, the door's meant to fling open, and then there's 5 people laughing. But instead, as you said, it's 200 people who are within touching distance of him.
And a sheep in a bikini.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, so he's humiliated, of course. And then what kind of happens is he says he gets chased around and before he ends up jumping out of the window. But what are they doing to him? And they kind of just laughing in his face, aren't they?
Just kind of jeering him, "Way!" And he gets so embarrassed he dives out the window. But unfortunately for them, some people who were delivering some toxic waste have parked up outside the window to do a shitload of coke. In a scene that, years later now reminds me of an Auntie Donna sketch where they're literally covered in cocaine over their faces.
Haven't you done well?
Yeah.
It's the fact that they just like park up and then instantly just pull out like just bags and are just like sticking them in their entire face to the point where like they're just covered in it, like absolutely smeared in it.
And like the the general public have the weirdest reaction. They kind of all
faking it.
Just he's faking it, yeah. He's faking it. Those massive whelps appearing on his arms and face. He's faking it. He just wants attention, all right? What?
So supposedly it's a joke among people in New York and upstate New York and that part of America that New Jersey is apparently famously full of pollution and toxic chemicals and stuff. Apparently it's a big, like, it's like a joke, like we say, too many sheep in Wales or whatever, apparently up in
Too
New
much
York.
Toxic waste.
Yeah, apparently I don't even know, maybe there's basis for it, I don't know, but apparently there's a joke in sort of that sort of part of America where just New Jersey is all toxic waste. So I think the fact that everybody's like acting nonplussed about all this is kind of, Troma is, I think, New York based. So they're, and it's New Jersey's first ever superhero. Of course, he's toxic powered and all of that.
There is this slightly weird disconnect though, because there's this brief moment where like he is, as you say, like writhing on the floor, screaming, where like like acidic steam is rising off his body. He's got these great big like green boils building up on his arms, and like I forget the character's name, but it's one of the two like leading like evil women, and she's like, "Hey, I don't think he's faking. I think he's really in trouble." And it's like, in the previous scene, you were taking close-up Polaroids of like a kid's crushed head. Like, why would you care?
Yeah, this is my limit. And then I love the piece here where the policeman comes and says, "Hey, you kids, get out of here!" And then he goes to like touch him, and the policeman's hands catch fire.
Yeah. But when Melvin like runs down the street, literally on fire as well, like it is insane. And the fact that he just goes home into his bathroom
and his mom's like,
"Melvin, Melvin, are you okay in there?" She was annoying me, going on at him. "Leave him alone." And she's like, he's finally started puberty. How old is he supposed to be?
I tell you what, though, for
24.
a film, again, we got these films where, not the greatest budget, but some good practical effect work here. His hair coming off as he's in the bath and like the arms swelling up. Obviously, the classic effect where you've got, I guess, what, a latex skin that you blow bubbles underneath. Like,
yeah, it's like bladders that you blow air into and stuff.
It's good.
I was actually surprised at how, with that big asterisk floating over it, like how good it looked. Actually, like, it was better than I thought it was going to be. It's quite impressive, actually.
Yeah, I've seen people with more money do worse stuff.
It puts me in mind of like Screaming Mad George, like Guyver or Elm Street 4 and stuff like that. It's got that like sort of visceral, gory, but practical kind of thing to it. And that I don't know what my point is.
No. I think even like a bad, like even like a less than good physical effect, the fact that it's real and you just know it's happening on camera, like it does add, it adds a certain something to it.
Yeah, you could spend a lot more in the modern age on CG that you would have spent an awful lot on, which is not nearly as effective as that can be now. Even, 39 years later, it holds up to a degree. I think it's good, and it is like it has the effect of like you think, oh, that's horrible. This horrible thing is happening to this guy's arm, and it works. Because you can imagine that as well. I think it also taps into like that visceral fear. You can imagine something having gone wrong with you, like you dunked your head in a big jar of Imac or whatever, and I think reaching up and having like a load of hair come away, or that type of thing happening to you.
It's just like a lot of the transformative scenes in popular superhero movies, like for example, like Spider-Man just waking up. I'm talking more movie than comics at the moment. Waking up and realizing his eyesight has changed and that he can.
I'm absolutely ripped to shit and don't need glasses anymore.
I'm absolutely ripped. I am, and then Aunt May trying to come in to, I don't know, give him a sausage roll or something, and he's just like, "Get out of here." It kind of reminds me of that. It kind of reminds me of that in a way.
Peter,
but
your sausage roll's ready. This is such an American.
Such an American snacks hot dog, whatever they call it. All right,
I got it from the Greg's next door.
I got it from this new Greg's place next
They'd call
door.
it Craig, wouldn't they?
Craig's.
Greg's. But obviously he's in tremendous pain as well. Poor Melvin.
It's
But
come ever so sharp, hasn't it?
changes
Fallen in
him.
that thing.
It's come incredibly sharp, and he thinks I'll just get into a lovely, I'm assuming, ice cold bath to sort
Just a
myself
lovely
out.
bath. You're a bit sore after a long day. That's nothing better.
He gets into that bath how I would get into a bath that I've run too hot, and I'm lowering myself in, but trying to persevere with it. But then as soon as I get to the testicles, game over. So then I have to retreat out of the bath, awkwardly stand at the side of the bath while I add cold to it, and then
You got to go up to the blow dryer thing, and
got to get yourself. A
I got no
off.
pubes. It's all right, it's fine. Imact, a lot of them. But yeah, he's obviously in terrible pain, and it changes him. He becomes a hideously deformed mutant, but he's got superhuman size and strength, and it changes him. It changes his personality as well, doesn't it?
Gives him a cooler voice.
Gives him a very sultry baritone. All of a
Sultry
sudden.
baritone, but also he just carries himself much better, doesn't he? He's not like, this is sissy stuff. He's that wouldn't come out because he keeps the like burned and like singed tutu on as well, doesn't he? He doesn't change out of it, which I think is actually he's wearing with pride.
It's just his
badge of
outfit
honor
now. But he kind of
his outfit
iconic.
onto him.
He kind of wanders off into the wilderness at first, and we don't know what's become of him. And then we first see him again when we meet some of my favorite bit players here. The aforementioned Cigar Face is talking about, hey, if this policeman doesn't take the money from the boss, then we'll kill him.
Hey, we're gonna give O'Clancy this wad.
O'Clancy.
O'Clancy, and he's just walking along, literally like with like a nightstick, and it's just so ridiculous. But I love it.
Like a big play on like what Chief O'Hara from the 60s Batman, like an Irish policeman.
Yeah.
Faith and Bagara. It's a toxic Avenger.
Yeah. so good. And there's several parts with this character. It's like later on scene reading like the Irish Times just at the cafe. They try to bribe him. He's having none of it. So Cigar Face and his co-henchman Nipples and Knuckles are setting to it, and they're giving Officer O'Clancy a beating. Oh no, they're preparing to castrate him. There we go.
Yeah, it's quite a jump, isn't it? Like we're just going to beat him up, and then we're going to castrate him. But obviously, in a lot of these early scenes, we don't see the Toxic Avenger's face, do we?
Remarkable restraint by modern film-going standards. Like I don't think you see his face for like 20 minutes or so, like post transformation. It's not a long movie.
Yeah, it's true. The bit that made me laugh was obviously he batters the life out of them all, right? But the bit where he's putting Cigar Face in the bin and like punching his nuts, and then the police officer like goes, "Oh," and holds his own nuts. That was great.
I think that. What Toxie has gathered here is he's got a big I think what school of martial arts has he learned, which is like the Popeye the Sailorman's style
Ripping
of
limbs
fighting,
off.
you know, with his like the speed bag punching of the face, and then chucking someone into a barrel, or just doing a big uppercut on someone and sending them flying.
My kind of first outright just shameful belly laugh of the movie was I don't know if it's Nipples or Knuckles, but when he pokes them in the eye and just takes both their eyeballs out, and the way it's cut is so quick and brutal that like, I was honestly pissing. I was quite ashamed of myself. It was a lot funnier than it had any right to be.
So two of them escape, Nipples and Knuckles, but Cigar Face escapes. The other two are dead.
Fortunately, we do lose them here.
There isn't much mop action, is there really? For considering like the post.
Yeah, reclaims his iconic mop at the end of the fight. I think he finds one.
Okay.
Leave a mop on their face is like a calling card.
He must find a few. Yeah. I think he stuffs mops in their mouths, the ones that he's killed, Yeah, Cigar-Face does escape.
And then Melvin goes home, and I think he just says, "Mom, let me in, it's me." But she won't let him in the house because
So
she's terrified.
he moves to the junkyard and built himself a lovely house there quite quickly.
This
Really
is
quite
insane.
tidies up nicely.
This is insane. Where did he get a picture of his mum printed off? You know,
Maybe there was one at the junkyard that had been thrown out previously.
Yeah, he just builds his house and just like has a little kip on a little mattress in the junkyard. And then I think it's established that this junkyard is where all of the toxic waste is being taken and just slung there by the obviously the mayor and all of the other big wigs as well are all in charge of that. But yeah, he starts to get press. He starts attacking criminals and bad folks, and he starts to get press as the monster hero, the Toxic Avenger, and he's all over the news, all over the newspapers, and he's held as a hero, and he's got like a bit of a cult following as well.
Yeah, like everyone pretty quickly, like the general populace, like everybody pretty quickly is on board with him. Like it's quite an inversion of what you're expecting, especially when like it's not just that like he's like apprehending criminals outside the law. He's like eviscerating them, like he's ripping them apart, and everyone kind of loves it. And we get this little montage where it's like, yeah, everyone's on board, but also like crime in general is way down. This is the thing, like it suggests that some people are getting arrested. They said like the prisons are now like
the prisons are overflowing.
Yeah, so some people are surviving.
But also he says like people are moving into the area, like it's so safe. The people are moving into the area.
You want to stay in this toxic Crusader protected locations.
You don't get the sort of usual TV controversy scene. It's not Zack Snyder's Toxic Avenger.
No,
it's not. His mum's not called Martha Junko.
But even to like riff on Spider-Man again. Like, there's no press where they like go, I know there was a bit later on when they say, like, is he a menace or what do they say? Is he a menace or something else? And it was definitely a menace. But there's
menace
none
or
of that.
A miracle, I think.
Menace or a miracle, yeah. But there's no like fight back from the press or people who live in the town, especially like because he looks the way he does as well. You'd expect there to be some sort of pushback against him, but there's not. Everyone's well on board with the Toxic Avenger.
Apart from but I'd say the only notable person who's really against it, which is the mayor, who there's no intrigue. Like, there's no like, let's string this out. Like, is the mayor a good guy or a bad guy? Yeah. It's literally like he's ruining business. Like, he's killing all our drug dealers. He's
they were some of our best. Cigar-Face was one of my best guys.
He like straight up admits to being a criminal as well. Like, with a lot of time with characters like this, they might be like, I'm not a criminal, I'm just doing what's in the best interests of this or that. But he just straight up says he's getting all the criminals will accept us. He just admits to being a criminal.
If we don't stop him before too long, he'll come for us as well. He'll kill us. With his openly Nazi police chief.
Oh, yeah. Nazi police chief.
That was laugh number 2. Like, I shouldn't have laughed at that.
Yeah. Oh my god!
Yeah, it's like we've established like, because I guess like basic screenwriting dictates that every scene, like every moment you film should drive the plot forward, and it's nice to know that Troma, in an avant-garde kind of way, have just thrown that out the window, because it's like we establish that like the mayor is a drug dealing criminal, and then we get a follow-up scene where he's kind of in like a strip club, but it's also kind of like his office. And just a guy like casually going like, so it's okay for us to like dump all that extra toxic waste here. He goes, I don't know. Won't that mean that the largest toxic waste dump in the country is like right next to a inhabited area? So what?
And they all just laugh. They all laugh.
Oh, it's so it's upsetting. And between this and then the various visits that Toxie appears to have to the health club to get his revenge on separate occasions. I wonder if this film was just shot sequentially. Maybe this ancient video technology had just meant that they just released this film in the order that they shot it.
You're right, because he repeatedly just walks in, murders somebody, leaves, does a thing, comes back again, murders someone. Business is still thriving. Like, it's going great.
Yeah.
There's no question marks about whether these people are
3 or 4 times.
There's no question marks about whether these people are good guys or bad guys either. Everyone just accepts that they're bad people. There's no like court of law or anything.
Like the drug dealer gets his head smashed. I know we've skipped a little bit here, but the drug dealer gets his head smashed. Literally in an isolated incident, Toxie walks in there. Everyone in the gym is afraid, apart from the evil man who's been selling drugs to people, who's will not be interrupted from doing his weights. He just gets smashed by them, gets his head crushed.
I know we're kind of like, I say like we're playing fast and loose with the plot, but I think this is just for film. Like, this is what it's like. It's like a lot of kind of, it's like a mixtape.
Most definitely,
kind of,
yeah.
Somewhere while we're seeing kind of like the growth of Toxie's career as a crime fighter, we get possibly the greatest restaurant themed superhero fight we've perhaps ever experienced.
Oh, yeah.
And I know this was like something that Sam, you were like this, so like we have to reference this in the game. Like, this
the
is
Mexican place,
yeah,
as it's called. Yeah, because I was also because a lot of people had made comparisons to Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge and stuff, and those are very flattering. But at the core of Toxic Crusaders, it's very Streets of Rage, Streets of Rage, a bit of Final Fight, all of that. And I was just like, in Streets of Rage, you go through the streets and then you go into a club, or like a bar / club, and you have fights in the bar, and then you go out the back of the bar and fight the head honcho and that. And I was like, the bar has to be the Mexican place. Right, we're in Tromaville, we have to go to the Mexican place. So yeah, this next scene in the movie was something we had to. When you think about this scene, well, we'll talk about the scene now, obviously, but when you think about, one of the first tasks was, John, we're going to adapt this scene specifically to a children's cartoon. So yeah, how about this scene? Let's talk about this scene.
Yeah, so
First
good.
of all, how? I'm assuming you couldn't point shotguns at babies.
No.
And I'm assuming you couldn't murder dogs either.
Yeah, well, so
I don't want spoilers.
It's an interesting thing to go to, though, right? Because you think about the you go again when people made your kids' versions of RoboCop and whatnot. It's like, we can work this in. Mayor Belgoody became Mayor Grody, and he's working for the bad guys and not bothered about it. But it's just a cartoon, kid-friendly version. There's not drug dealers, and similarly, we've got Frank, Leroy, and Rico smashing up the Mexican place. They just don't happen to be sexually assaulting any women.
Okay,
okay. We have. Well, shall we talk about the actual scene in the film?
Yeah. So we're in a Mexican restaurant, and then you say, "Sam, throw me those names again." I've blanked everyone after Cigar Face.
Is Frank, Rico, and Leroy?
Okay.
They announce themselves to everybody as well.
They do a full announcement, like almost if it's like a band coming in and introduce them as tonight's
on the shotgun. Yeah, it's
such a good scene.
And I tell you what, for a film that people might say that you ain't got great actors in this film, these guys are acting the shit out of this, particularly the face painted man with a shotgun.
100%.
Yeah, is that Leroy? Is that Leroy? Yeah. Oh my god, yeah, like the most like Jack of Hearts looking guy you've seen. Like, I was actually like genuinely surprised at how, like, I don't know, it's not one of the John Wick movies in terms of choreography, but like they're going for it. Like, they're throwing some pretty decent like kicks and stuff at one point.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, thankfully as well, as all good Mexican restaurants, it does have samurai swords on the wall that will come in.
Oh yeah. Ready to go as well. I enjoyed everybody, like the members of staff as well. Obviously there's a great moment where one of the guys just intervenes and says, why don't you leave everybody alone? Just take me as a hostage and just let everyone go. And he just blows him away. Leroy just shoots him, and it is horrific. Everyone's screaming. All of the members of staff, like behind, like in the kitchen and stuff, just gulping up. It was great.
What got me from that scene, Ben, with the just take me in the shooting it, when it's framed up and that guy is standing there in front of just this latticed wall, it's a bit like, when just going to the animation limitations of the time, when you used to watch like an old Scooby-Doo movie and it's like that piece of scenery is it's obviously on a different cell from that one, so I know you're going to interact
it's
with
coming
that.
down.
Well, like in any game where a piece of the wall is a different color to the rest, when you're just like, do I interact with this or?
Yeah, so it's exactly that. As soon as he stood up, I was like, look at that thing that a stuntman could basically be thrown through. And again, like, he gets blasted away by this shotgun. And then it's not that in a lesser film that didn't have the convictions of a Troma movie, that person would be shot and they'd crash through that wall and they'd be gone. Right? You'd see them get shot and it'd be like, okay, that's violent enough. But this is a Troma movie. We don't fuck about. So what happens is he gets blasted through this wall with a shotgun, but then is still completely visible and proceeds to like do his death twitching.
Yeah.
While blood pumps from his wound.
It's effective. Yeah, pretty brutal.
People that have played the Toxic Crusaders demo at PAX will tell you that that latticed wall actually in the game, it's Frank's introduction, is that he appears that lattice wall is there and it blocks you from getting any further, and it gets just smashed down by Frank doing a big kick, and in he comes.
Oh, amazing.
And an observation about that scene that we made, it's a funny thing that you that you mentioned about the editing. How did they edit this? Because we noticed that, see, Frank in that scene, Toxie rips his arm right off, right? So obviously the actor's wearing a fake arm, and Toxie just tears it straight off. It hits him over the head with a bloody end, right? But the weirdest thing is that, normally what you would, when it comes to the time to make the shot where the arm is ripped off, then you would attach the fake arm, right? And then you start rolling. But weirdly, throughout the entire scene, Frank's actor is wearing the fake arm, and he never uses that arm. Yeah, he's got this fake arm for the whole scene, and I don't know why they didn't think to just use it just for the shot. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe setting it up is difficult. I don't know. But so for in the game, we've made it so that Frank never uses one.
I said to Karen, like, are they getting the actor to hold the camera or something there? Can he not do it? So,
he does everything with one-handed, and so that's what we've done in the game. He uses one hand and one leg to attack. This other arm is just always flat down behind him like that. It's like
in the game as well.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we've animated. We did every attack and every animation. That arm just hangs down in the game. Yeah.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
I've got to say, like, some of the they're obviously like a guide dog gets shot in this scene, which is fine. But don't worry, folks, because when we cut to the dead body of the dog, it is still breathing despite having kind of like gore all over it.
Got a good dog to lie still for a bit, but obviously can't train a dog to hold its breath.
I was very impressed at the ice creams. A couple of the more elaborate deaths we get when Leroy and Rico have to get their comeuppance, which happens in the kitchen area of a restaurant. We get Leroy is being choked on his back on the countertop, and so Toxie fills his mouth with milk, 2 scoops of ice cream, chocolate sauce, whipped cream, and then sticks his head under like a mixer to kind of finish him off.
McFlurry machine to mix up his insides.
And then
brilliant cut. They throw him onto the ground at one point, and he had like sort of tortillas on him, and then it cut, and then he had taco shells on him. It's almost like they went, that's not good enough. We need something else. Chuck the taco shells on him as well.
And then Rico, Toxie pins his hands in like a chip fryer cage, then bends the metal of the deep fat fryer frame around him so that he's caught over the deep fat fryer, and then lowers his arms into the oil.
When he's doing that to him, he's like going, "Oh, we're only joking. It's fine. Don't worry. You literally just murdered someone. You just murdered us. We're only joking.
Prank, bro."
Just a prank. Oh wow.
But those are inventive kills. Like,
Yeah.
that's doing a lot with a little. Because yeah, it kind of makes the mass slaughter a bit more interesting. But yeah, I can now say I've seen an ice cream themed murder, which is fantastic.
It's phenomenal work. He's obviously an artist in his field.
It does take a dark turn, doesn't it? With Frank trying to sexually assault Sarah, after killing her guide dog, and when everybody in the restaurant realizes what's about to happen, they all just scream. They just go like, "This is one step too far." But Toxie saves the day.
Saves the day, and then he goes and meets Sarah, who from the guide dog we know is blind, and therefore cannot be scared by his hideous appearance.
Yeah, and because he's got a lovely voice as well, a lovely calming voice, he manages to lead her outside and then leads her home.
Can I just say very quickly, this was shameful laugh. The third is when we get a brief scene where the police are investigating they're there at the Mexican place at the aftermath of this very, very, very brutal fight. And every police officer who's investigating the scene is eating tacos. It's just
tacos, yeah.
Are they all
Free
eating
lunch.
things from the thing? Because I've realized, doesn't Frank then get, even though he's already armless, doesn't he get shoved into a pizza oven? So like one of the policemen is eating some tacos or nachos, and then someone else is having like a thick shake by the guy that's been killed by the, and then the last guy, I've got a pizza with the works. They're all just eating off the surface.
Geez, Lou, how long are you gonna have me keep drinking this thing out of The Simpsons? Everybody came back
yes,
to that.
yeah, that's a deep cut. Yeah. Yeah, the cartoonish incompetence of the villains is remarkable.
Yeah, so obviously Toxie takes Sarah back to her house, where they get to know each other. She immediately says, "Do you want anything to eat?" "Peanut butter and jelly, okay, that's fine." She's got a load of canes knocking around, which she not. I mean, so she's only been blind for like 2 years because she got into a car accident, didn't she? And I guess here we're sort of, the joke is this is her first time without her guide dog as well, so that's why she's whacking Toxie in the balls accidentally with her stick.
Oh, is this when she wants to feel his face to see what he looks like, and then classic the other side of Troma. They're not afraid of the sexual content either. So she doesn't want to feel his face because he thinks he has acne. She says, "Oh, I'll feel your hands then. Oh, you've got lovely strong hands. Let me read your palm." She says, "Oh, great things can happen to you. Let me read your other palm." And then she's like, "Oh, no, sorry, not your hand."
So one of my favorite stupid little bits is that about Toxie throughout his voice, he's got this incredible, this treacle-like voice, like this Morgan Freeman-esque voice. But in between talking, if he's hurting people and he grunts, he's got this monster sound. It's just all these noises, and this is great. Where she grabs and she accidentally grabs his junk, and it's just this.
So good, and quite an extensive like sex scene as well, right? Although he does seem to be fully clothed for the duration of it, so he's clearly just unzipped or something.
Well, we eventually get the kind of
crotchless tutu.
Yeah, we get the loving, like we get the fast track of their relationship, don't we? Like through a montage with a rocking soundtrack, I have to say, where they move in together. He invites her to his home in the waste dump, and they do it at the house, and yeah, it's sweet in a trashy, awful kind of way.
Yeah, he just mostly their relationship. He brings her flowers between eliminating more villains. Put up a photo of Gary the guide dog in the home that they made together.
So yeah, he continues to like fight crime. Essentially, there's like a pimp and the underage prostitute. And when he attacks him, he goes, "Hey guys, help me out!" And about 15 guys come out.
So good. All those, so many guys coming out of that limo.
So many flat caps as well. Yeah, it's good. And then like I guess finally, but it kind of just, as it been happening throughout the film, takes revenge on the 4 the four main tormentors.
This is where I feel like it feels like one scene that they've split into sections because it comes between other adventures. So the first one, he gets Wanda. She's in the sauna having a look at her hit and run photos, mazzing off over those.
Mazzing off.
I was like, Andy's going to approach this delicately. He's a professional. he's got the right words. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she's having a wee maz over those photos. And I mean, do we know that he definitely kills her? I know that he burns a bum on
he just burns her bum because she turns up at the police station later.
Oh, does she?
He just burns her ass on the heater. And then later in the club is when he sort of like chases Julie down into this horrible basement,
which is labeled exit.
Yeah, and gives her a haircut. Yeah, because they both end up at the police station, don't they? One with like a burnt ass, one with a bald head. And they're blaming each other, saying they never wanted anything to do with the hit and run killings. They've been coerced into it. Yeah, and how does he take down the other two? Bozo and Slug.
It's a dramatic irony in a car.
Oh yeah. They steal the car from the old lady.
Oh my god!
Do you want to help with this? Do you want to help with these groceries? Yeah, I do actually. And then batter.
And you want to punch in the old tummy instead?
And then batter with a walking stick. Oh wow!
Yeah, and then basically like have an extended. I was going to say car chase, but it's not a car chase. Like Toxie's on the roof, then he's in the car, and just forcing him to go faster and faster and faster. Rips the wheel off, kind of gives it to Bozo, and then they go off. They kind of go off a cliff, don't they, or like a small hillock.
Yeah, they go off a hillock, and then hillock. So the car, as with all cars in films, having fallen off a hillock, it explodes, and then does Toxie just stay in there until the flames have died down, and then comes out? It's like,
Yeah, it's like the closest you get to him being hurt, if you will, is that he just kind of like as he climbs out of the wreckage, like the two corpses next to him. He just kind of dusts himself off, and like for a few steps, he's kind of waddling a bit, like he's a little kind of dazed, and then he's just back to his normal business, really.
Normal business and shoes. And then there's a scene as well where Cigar Face returns, and they surround Melvin, Toxie, all ready to kill him, and you think this might be it, the game might be up, but no, he leaps out the way, and all of the bad guys shoot each other.
Yes,
the great $6 million man moment, right? Where you just like
$6 million.
Goes up into like a laundry chute or something, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's kind of on like a fire escape, and we just get this brief moment where they've all shot each other, and he's just on this fire escape, like giving them the finger, like that. It's
he's kind of leapt to safety, so they all shoot each other. Classic.
I mean,
there's a superhero moment.
There's a school of thought. If you study kind of story structure, there's a school of thought that says every scene in a movie is a dramatic question that can only when the question is answered can a scene be resolved. And I mean, really, the question was, could Toxie leap to a fire escape and like flip them off? And yes, and on we go.
The answer is yes.
And this is this bit. I mean, we've gone through this bit pretty fast, but it does almost play like a montage, right? This is just his, because then we get this intercut with like spinning newspapers of like he's done it again.
All saving cats out of trees and all that. And my particular favorite is just walking past this woman's window and she can't open a jar. He just leans into the window, opens the jar for her. Sorted.
Sorted. Thank you, Toxie.
They just does a little thumbs up.
You'd love someone like that in your community.
And not long after this sort of montage is, and while this montage is happening, the mayor is also like making plans to to get rid of Toxie for good. And yeah, it seems like Toxie takes things one step too far when he kills a seemingly innocent little old lady in a dry cleaning store. As we mentioned before, throws her in the washing machine, and then like, what's that massive industrial ironing thing? What is that?
Oh yeah, I guess that's what it is. Like it's just like a commercial iron.
Yeah,
What
big
if-
commercial iron.
One of the best bits about that is like her corpse is on this giant commercial iron, and then the owner comes back in. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing back there, Mrs. So-and-so? I've told
You know
you before.
you can't go back there.
That's not for customers." She's very clearly like,
Been ironed.
Thank you. It's like she's done it before because the way he says, "You know, you're not allowed back there." But this is where I think us as the audience are supposed to think for a second, maybe he's gone a bit wrong, because when he goes back to his house, the music and him, the like silhouette of him just like walking back in, and he scares Sarah as well, doesn't he? But he's kind of just like horrified at what he's become, I guess. And
I mean, the dramatic moment, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Is there a clone? Is there like an evil twin? Is the chameleon at
yeah,
it
that's what I
again?
was kind of thinking. Yeah, well,
But
what's
no,
going on? Has someone else
he's-
been toxified?
Yeah. I thought, oh, has he got a brother? Like, who knows?
Because
But before,
we did get a very brief moment earlier where a scientist, who I think it's called like Professor Snot Burglar or something like
oh,
really.
that's like,
Yeah.
it got terribly phlegmy.
Yeah, and he's like, oh yeah, he says this weird scientific theory about how the monster may have developed like he has to root out evil, like he can't help himself. That's why he's only killing evil people, and then he's just killed this seemingly innocent old woman. So clearly something's off here.
Believe the scientists, though. We could have learned a lesson from that.
Tromatons.
Yeah.
As it becomes, it's his spider sense and his tromatons. Did that come? Did they actually? I think they actually brought those up in the sequels, or was it made up for the cartoon? I don't recall.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I know,
I
like
think
in
it
the-
was in Toxic too.
Yeah, and again, I avoided that one on recommendation, but yeah, in the cartoon, of course, he this sense of evil, it's now just he'll get like a little flicker of lights around his body, and he's like, oh, something evil is happening somewhere. So yeah, that's his, as Sam said, that's his spidey sense basically.
It's got the same inherent mechanism as like a Ghost Rider, I guess. Then he can tell when there's evil nearby, and he must root it out. But
Evil
don't worry,
afoot.
that hasn't gone on the blink, because we find out in a scene with the mayor that that old lady was quite big in the world of human trafficking. So we mustn't let that get out, because this is our opportunity to get him to kill him. And they
She also says he took, when she's given the stained jeans to the dry cleaner dude, says it's quite weird how she words it, because she says my son was taking one of his best girls out. And even then I was a bit like, what? What do you mean by that? And now it turns out she's the head of a human trafficking ring. Should have known. Should have known. Yeah, and I guess now is kind of like the big finale.
Yeah, so worried that he's going to go off the rails, Toxie suggests to Sarah that they go away somewhere where he can be far away from people, and not like the Incredible Hulk going off to a wilderness. They literally just go to a nearby campsite off a nearby farm.
Yeah, it's a 5-minute walk from a co-op as well. It's very
just nip up the road incognito in disguise.
Which is kind of weird
Meanwhile,
in itself, because they're already living on the dump. Like no, yeah, it's weird.
yeah, it's a famous dump. Yeah,
and
so
this is again, a lesser movie would not have shown just this one-sided conversation with the mayor when he's on the phone. Hello, Governor.
what's
Yeah, I
that?
had a similar idea actually. The National Guard.
The National Guard.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. And then the mayor, the only thing the mayor doesn't get is that the governor wants to capture Toxie rather than to
And the
kill
mayor
him.
like tells everybody to essentially kill him, and they're like, "Oh, actually, we want to just capture him," and they're like, "Capture him dead." Oh yeah, great. But obviously, the people of Tromaville essentially refuse, don't they?
They all get together. I great admiration for this scene where there's lots of like it's so the officer we re-meet our Irish policeman, a load of kids that Toxie has in the montage scene
yeah.
stopped
We'll have
from
an ice
being
cream
run
as well.
over. There is just like one of the kids. There's two boys who are slightly older who obviously have lines and stuff, and then there is just, I assume, one of the crew's like little girls, like a kid of about 4, just sitting there eating an ice cream, nodding, and then gets picked up and carried off by some of the other kids. It's hilarious. Just having a great time.
I do love because we get this like you've basically got like the National Guard rolling into Tromaville, and like kind of seem to be simultaneously like high effort and very lazy at the same time because it's like we get this crazy montage of like the whole town going like, oh, the National Guard, the National Guard. Like, this doesn't seem right. Like the monsters on our side, and then I love this moment because like for like 3 seconds we get like the head of the National Guard who we've never met this guy. We don't know anything about him. He just goes, I don't know about this. I think the locals seem to really like him, and then we're on. Like blinking, you miss it. Move on to the next character.
Yeah. So Melvin's mum arrives and identifies Toxic as her son as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, she obviously learned in the scenes that, you know, in montages, she's gone from being very surprised when he first knocked at the door as a monster of superhuman size and strength to his, you know, she's obviously come to terms with it now. And we get a proper an I am Spartacus moment, I guess, where they all kind of stand between Toxie and the National Guard. You know, that you're gonna have to go. You have to go through all of us.
Yeah, and everybody's favorite kind of Irish cop is the first to kind of break ranks. And he's like, no, I won't do it. He's a good. He's a good man. He's a hero. And then the National Guard, who I have to say have no emotional investment in this at all, are like, yeah, he's a good guy. I'm not going to do it.
We can't do it.
What Clancy says goes. All right.
And then Toxie thanks his friends, calmly steps up and then punches the mayor's guts out.
Yeah, because the mayor's the only one who's like so steadfastly like, no, we have to kill him, to the point where he whips out a pistol, and he's waving it at Toxie, and as you said, it's like, oh, you know, is there going to be some moral here? Is Toxie going to like, I don't know, like mend his violent, brutal ways, and he's going to avenge evil, he's going to take down the bad guy, but he's not going to kill him. He's like, no, he's just going to stick his arm into his gut, basically, and rip out a chunk of meat.
Disembowels the mayor in front of everybody. Everyone's like, yay!
Hooray!
Got what he deserved.
And then after he's done it, he's like, you get that moment, which would be like the zinger in a classic like superhero movie, where he's like, Officer O'Clancy, like clean up this toxic waste or something, and he's like, yeah, I will. And the mayor is just dead on the floor.
He's just let's see if you've got any guts, and then
that's it.
And then that's it. It just like, and then he continued, if you're trying to commit crime in Tromaville, you better bloody watch out.
You better bloody watch out. So that is it for the Toxic Avenger. I guess we should, before we wrap up, we should play some name game. Andy, have you got any name game?
I got a couple for you right here, Ben. So,
okay.
John,
so basically,
go on, Ben. You explain. You do it better than I do.
Oh, do I? Okay. So basically, we'll give you a plot synopsis for a film that sounds very, very similar to The Toxic Avenger. And based on our clue, you have to work out what it's called. It'll essentially rhyme with The Toxic Avenger. Sometimes, very loosely, but most of the time. With one example, you'll work out how it works. Andy, did you want to go first?
Okay, have you got a quick synopsis for me, Ben, that we can...
Yeah, sure. So the Toxic Avenger is born when meek mop boy Melvin falls into a vat of toxic waste. You got to repeat that now, Andy.
Okay, so in this film, meek mop boy Melvin falls into a vat of vulpine excrement, giving him the powers to solve crime in Tromaville.
The Fox Shit Avenger?
The Fox Shit Avenger, very good.
Okay, I'm with you now. Right, yeah.
I feel like I'm on Flatshare Slamdown now.
Okay. Have you got any, Ben?
Yeah, so meek, I'll just enjoy saying this.
Meek mild mop boy.
Meek mop boy Melvin falls into a vat of toxic waste, landing directly on his lower back. The triangular bone that consists of 3 to 5 fused segments. Ouch, that hurts.
Is it the Cock-Sick Avenger? The Cock-Six Avenger.
It's the Cock-Six Avenger. Correct.
Okay. I'll give you one more, Ben. So, Meek Mild Mop Boy Melvin is at an alternative music concert, and he's just got himself a couple of beers, and someone dancing about quite uncarefully knocks those beers over. So he dives into the area of this dancing and really kicks off.
The something pit.
Mosh pit.
The Mosh Pit Avenger.
Oh,
There
it's
you
straight at
go.
the mosh pit. I was thinking too. That's good. Okay. Meek Mild Mop Boy Melvin falls into a vat of canine vomit, turning into
The cat sick Avenger. The dog sick Avenger, rather.
the dog sick Avenger.
It's a
Correct.
cat sick. I think I'm looking at your cats, John.
Yeah. We got any more, Andy?
No more.
Can I offer one?
Please.
Of course you can. Most definitely. We always encourage that.
Mild-mannered, malted mop boy Melvin moves into a small maisonette house arrangement with somebody and starts paying rent on it.
Ooh.
The maisonette, is that just like a house? But in
yeah, like a smaller, like I don't know, maybe like I was running with the bed sit
The
Avenger.
bed sit,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
the
a
bed sit
Avenger.
Avenger.
Very good.
The bed sit Avenger. I like that.
Ah.
I ain't doing one. Rhymezone.org/toxic.
As you've learned, the rhymes have to be cursory at best. We'll be playing this all. I'll get text from you later at night saying I've got another one.
It did take me a while to come up with those pretty poor efforts, to be fair. I was staring at the page for a good 20 minutes.
Actually, there aren't many rhymes with Avenger, really.
No.
No, exactly. Skip that off.
Imagine how I mean, Sam, go back and listen to the episode. Imagine the struggles we had when we did Skinnamarink.
I think they were pretty good, weren't they, in the end? So I guess, yeah, we got to rate the movie now. So standard A to F ratings include minus or plus if you are that way
Classic
inclined.
schoolyard rankings.
Classic schoolyard rankings. John seems like it's gonna be a difficult
Are
process.
you
yeah.
mentally converting from stars?
Oh, this completely. Oh, my life. Like, how do you rate something like this? It completely defies.
It's like from a completely different world, isn't it?
Oh my god. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one.
So based on if you're rating something based on how well it does what it's set out to do, this is an A.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a challenge, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. I need like like this guy, like you'll get like those grids now, and it's like which way do you swing? Is it like left or right? And then now they add an added dimension. We need like a 3-dimensional kind of like.
We need like a sort of a radar graph for doing any kinds of ratings.
Okay, this movie is F to A, libertarian to authoritarian.
Like I don't know. Like okay, I'll leap in and make a fool of myself. I feel like because I have to smash it onto one scale, and it's got to appeal to all humankind. I think this is maybe a C+ for humankind, with a massive asterisk where,
as is Troma tradition,
it might be a secret A+ kind of hiding.
I think that's fair. I think that makes sense.
Perfectly fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an A for me.
Straight A. Yeah. I mean, I think as this is not only the first time I've seen this film, but the first time I've seen a Troma movie. I had a great time with it. I really enjoyed it. It was so ridiculous and over the top. And yeah, just like you, John, I had numerous belly laughs, some that I felt a little bit guilty of, but kind of like, you shouldn't feel guilty about something you enjoy, should you? I'd probably just go for a B, considering it's the first time I've seen it, and I currently don't have any like nostalgia towards it or any connection to it in any other way. But of course, I'm sure that will grow once I enjoy more of the Troma movies and eventually play the Toxic Crusaders games as well. So
round it off then, Ben. I'm going to go a B plus for the reasons everyone else said. I think, unlike yourself, I've got slightly more fond memories for it. I enjoyed this an awful lot watching it for this show here. I tend to try and rate things based on just how much I enjoyed them, and whether I feel guilty for it or not. I enjoyed this quite a lot. And again, objectively, some stuff is bad, but I just love it. It's so much fun. Like it's an absolute delight to watch. So a B plus from me. Just before we wrap up, though, I wanted to get everyone's real quick take on it. I'll try and get us to bed before midnight. But what are you guys' feelings on the upcoming remake?
Oh yeah, of course.
Big audible shrugs. It's Peter Dinklage as
that's correct.
Now I'm not sure if that's just as Melvin or as Toxie as well. I don't know
Toxie's voice. Or
yeah,
it's a good
I'd
voice.
be guessing the voice. Like if you're going for this kind of like melodious kind of, yeah, surely that's gotta be it.
I think that a small person superhero would be amazing. I think it would be a good thing to do. I'd maybe not necessarily with this property, which is all about doing crazy over the top things. It might not be the most positive thing for them. I hope that they're not doing like in Mulholland Drive with the small person from Twin Peaks, where they put him in a big suit.
It's funny, isn't it? I guess I'm very like now, like having gained an appreciation for the Troma stuff. I'm interested in it. I want to see what they're doing with it. But it's kind of we haven't seen anything like we know the names attached and they're all good names. But like I'm kind of cautiously excited. But I don't know, like everything we talked about, like all the messy, wonderful stuff that made kind of toxy. Like I don't know, like how do you capture that? Like, or I don't know. I hope they find some way to be anarchic, and I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what form that takes nowadays, but yeah, I'd like it if it's got, as long as it's got a sense of humor.
I'm always in favor of a new take on something. Like I'm often a defender of remakes, even ones that don't live up to the original, because as soon as you stop thinking of them as like a replacement of the original, it's just somebody else's take on it, and I quite enjoy seeing a new take on something. So I'm actually quite excited. But I also think that they do need to take into account what made the original special. That's the I think that's the only time that a reboot really fails for me, is if they kind of completely forget what made the original special. I mean, you look at things like Suspiria, they did a remake which was so different, but it's just a new take on it and stuff. So I'd love to see somebody else's take on Toxie, whatever that might be, even if it's Marvel is popular now, let's make a family friendly version. I mean, I was quite happy with the other family friendly version of Toxie they made. So yeah, but it would be nice if they are able to keep in mind what made the original special.
And I know we didn't get a chance to touch on it. We touched on lots of other things, but I know that Toxic Avenger and Toxic Crusaders spent a long time basically shelved for competitive reasons, right? So someone who was publishing a competing property, is it the people that own Turtles?
Yeah, I think that's the rough idea of how it went. It's believed that they effectively saw this competition, bought it out, and shelved it effectively. Like I don't know. This is what I've heard and what I've read. I don't know how. John, you looked into that as well, or
to some extent, like most of it's kind of anecdotal, but it's also kind of like a narrative, which Lloyd Kaufman has been quite, with his trademark humor, has kind of been poking fun at for years. The idea that there was really only space for one toxic, mutant themed, environmentally conscious cartoon in the 90s, and it's an alternate history we'll never get, but potentially if Toxic Crusaders had gotten a second series, who knows? Like maybe it genuinely could have been a rival to the Turtles. And yeah, I think in a weird way, it's kind of why I've come to respect what Troma do, as weird and kind of messy as it is, because like it's a story. I like that they're the underdogs, and I think working on the property and working with these characters again, like I felt like that was the one thing we kind of had. You know, these characters didn't have, say, like you know, Turtles level of kind of global domination, but what they had was a kind of a genuineness. Like they were stupid, but it was a stupidity you could own with a kind of a heartfeltness to it. And I came to really like that. I came to really dig that. So I felt like they're silly characters, but we should never make fun of them because they're not they are not the joke. They're there to kind of like save the world in their own kind of daft little way. And yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling a bit now, but like I felt that they didn't get their moment in the sun. So it's nice to kind of finally treat them right, to treat them fairly after all these years. So
talk of season 2 for what it's worth, and this has been said publicly, so I can repeat it. But Ryan at Retroware basically acquired all of the production sketches for season 2 that never happened, and we've incorporated a lot of it into the games. So we have, characters and monsters and things that were going to be Series 2 enemies that were going to be toys, and we've brought to life a lot of the stuff that would have happened in '92.
That's amazing. That's
we
really cool.
And again, not to go too far down this rabbit hole, but Sam and I had a bit of a revelation in the last couple of weeks where, and Andy, this might mean something to you as well, but we discovered that the leading artist on Sonic the Comic, who was a big hero of ours growing up, Richard Elson, we found out, I was just chatting to him about this, and it came out that he'd been drawing a UK Toxic Crusaders comic before starting on Sonic the Comic in 1992. And clearly, whatever deal killed Toxic Crusaders, it all kind of came around this time where it got cancelled. The comic got cancelled like just when it was kind of starting. So not only did a lot of Rich's artwork not make it to print, a lot of the original artwork just got destroyed by the publishers. It just kind of got chucked in the bin.
It's astounding, isn't it? Like you say, John, like such an alternate history that we didn't get. Is it a brighter or a darker timeline? I know the one we live in. It must be a brighter one where this was a completely like a larger franchise. And I think if you look at before episodes of Toxic Avenger, Toxic Crusaders rather play, there's a little Lloyd Kaufman video where he talks about syndication. It would have made Uncle Lloyd an awful lot of money. Yeah. From those DVDs where he talks about, this would have made me an awful lot of money if this had happened, but because of some wicked men that took this from me.
Can you say devil-worshipping media conglomerates, kid?
And soon there'll be no independent companies left. Phenomenally interesting. I think getting ready for this episode, I've got a far deeper appreciation for what they were doing and what they might have been. Hopefully, this and whatever the remake is when we get it, and maybe it's a renaissance of the Toxic Avenger / Crusaders. I certainly hope so.
That would be nice. I realize it's not very good for an audio podcast, me holding up a comic to my camera, but I've done some scans and I'll make sure you guys can share them.
Yeah. Oh wow, yeah.
If you're watching the YouTube version of this, you could pause and look back at that, but we'll link them up.
Yeah, cool.
Wonderful. Okay. So thanks, John. Thanks, Sam. Where can our listeners keep up to speed with you guys online on socials?
So for me, you can find me on Twitter at Freakzone Games. That's FREAKZONE Freak Zone, and that's where you can play my other games like Sparky and stuff. Toxic Crusaders is under Retroware, who we're doing this game for. And you can find them at just Google Retroware, and you can see all the beautiful things they're working on. And I'm on a bunch of other things. I've got a YouTube channel where I very occasionally put not let's plays, but let's studies of games and things like that. And again, it's just either on everything. I'm either Freak Zone Games or Sam FZ Games. Come find me.
And for me, I'm also on Twitter. You can get me at John Lock Comics. That's JONLOCK Comics. You can check out my personal website, which is johnlock.com. That's got links to all the projects I've been working on, my comics, obviously the very cool video game stuff, which I've been very lucky to be a part of lately. And yeah, or you can go to bigpunchstudios.com, which is my company, and that's where everything I do and the wonderful people I work with, our board games, our RPGs, our podcasts, everything's there. Everything's there. You can't miss us, basically. You can find everything there.
Amazing. We'll put all those links in the show notes. Obviously, we'll put all the links to Toxic Crusaders as well.
Freakzagames.com. I forgot about websites.
Websites in as well.
It's got all the social links on there.
I'm sure we'll share stuff of the game, like leading up to the release and when it's out as well, so that our listeners can be reminded of when it's available. Wonderful. Okay, so thanks to everybody. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to our current patrons, including John Crinnan, Ben Scaife, Stephen Christopher, Laura Kendrick, Toby Miller, Lane Spencer, Ollie Child, Leslie Carlo, Julia Bilgren, Nick Spill, Troy Birch, Pazuzu, and Rosalind Harnias. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review. And head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And next week we are tackling Moontrap
with John's podcasting partner, right? Yes. So PJ's joining us from. I mean, we haven't talked about it. If you're a podcast listener and you like a bit of comics, you couldn't go far wrong with listening to John's other podcast, the JLA Cast, where he and PJ, who will be joining us next week to talk Moontrap, talk about, let's face it, anyone in the know's opinion, the greatest era of DC Comics that ever was.
Yeah, no, caveated, like, if you like comics from one very specific period in time, this is the niche podcast for you. But yeah, you've heard from the face, and now next episode, the talent behind the podcast will be coming on. PJ, yeah, he'll be good. He's a good one, that PJ.
I mean, it wasn't deliberate that you joined us back to back, John. I think PJ was going to join us around a month ago for Moontrap, but then he selfishly had a baby earlier than scheduled.
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah, no, no one could be more outraged than me. Like, it's really broke up a beautiful thing we had going.
I don't see the appeal, this whole parenting thing. I didn't hold you guys up by like a whole half hour on that thing.
We're all good.
We totally understand.
But yeah, join us for that next week, everybody. But for now, be careful. Don't do mean pranks at a gym, because you never know what might come back to bite you in the ass or burn you in the ass about it.
Especially if you're in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't wear a tutu, because that's sissy stuff. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye for now. Bye.
Hashtag sissy stuff.
Hashtag sissy stuff.